So.
We are so
Once
close
recording, we're just seeing if we can get the
over to YouTube.
It's adorable.
All right. So are we recording? Can I start?
Oh, 1 second. We are not recording. We go back to Zoom. We're Zoom.
We're streaming on YouTube now, but we're not yet recording. Almost there.
Record.
Okay, we're
live.
going.
All right, progress can be painful sometime. Welcome, everyone. I'd like to call to order the regular city council meeting of Pleasant View City this June 22nd, 2021 at 6:03. So we're running 3 minutes late already. So welcome, everybody. Why we haven't had, well, it's been 2 years since we've had this many people here, but it's good to be back in person. It's good to see so many people here. Doesn't happen very often. We should do this kind of stuff more often. We'll start the meeting with Pledge of Allegiance and the opening prayer reading or expression of thought by Council Member Gibson. Steve?
Will the audience please rise and repeat the Pledge of Allegiance after me? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our Heavenly Father, we're indeed thankful for this opportunity we have together as residents and City Council Mayor of Pleasant View. We're thankful for the goodness that we have here, for the freedoms that we enjoy. Father, we ask a special blessing to be with the military and with our first responders, the fire department and the police department. Be with them, help them to be protected and safe, and help keep us safe. We're thankful for all the blessings that we do have, Father, in this wonderful city. And Father, as we make decisions today, we ask that thy Spirit be with us, that we'll be able to make good decisions for the future and think of the future as we talk and discuss. You know, we're thankful for all we have. And as these kind residents and family members return home, we ask that they'll be able to return home with safety. And we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Steve. Next item is declarations of conflict of interest. Does anybody on the council have any conflicts? The items on the agenda. All right, great. We'll move on to comments or questions for the mayor and council for items not on the agenda. Anybody have anything? Okay, please come to the microphone, state your name.
Luann Reese. I live at 4215 North, 900 West. I've been a resident of Pleasant View for 25 years. You all should, some of you should know me. I speak a lot at these meetings, it seems like. I just want to make a comment about the sustainability. If the council, I'm sure you have considered the sustainability of the growth of Pleasant View. We have gone, quoting Standard Examiner, I don't know if it's fact, I don't think everything is fact, but from approximately 6,500 residents to 11,000 in a very short period of time. On the agenda tonight is the final approval for 10 more homes behind my property, which is Harrisville Farms, and the approval of 23 more lots down off back of 1,000. With that growth, both of those, I do believe, fit into our master plan. We do have a master plan, and we have been pretty good as a city about not allowing things that don't fit into that master plan. And I do believe that these two do fit into the master plan. However, with that comes where are we gonna get the water for, we're on wells. Wells do go dry. I just spoke to Tyson. Tyson said they do have a way to monitor that. I think it'd be awesome if some of that was, if data was on a graph from month to month, year to year, to do a comparison of how much water is used by the citizens of Pleasant View, because otherwise I don't know how you will know with the approval of all these new homes going in, that we are going to have enough drinking water to service them when we are, what, 15 to 22 years into drought. Wells do go dry. They have in the past, and they haven't here in Pleasant View, but they do across the nation. So I'm asking for some data. Tyson could probably answer that. And then also with that growth, more people, more crime. Do we have enough police officers? I know I spoke to Ryan today, and he said that he's been granted one more police officer, and I think that's 3 this year or something, so that's good. But I'm just wondering if we keep, if we're keeping abreast with the growth. And I brought some pictures. I emailed them to Lori, but they didn't go through. How do you want to do that?
We're gonna get Jill.
Jill.
We're just gonna put it up here and show. So do you need like this and see what we can get up with? Well, do you know what?
You have to switch like that, yeah.
I don't know.
Is that kind of?
Mhm.
It's helpful.
You really can't see what it is. So the new road that they're putting in, that's gonna go behind my property, that's going to be 1150, 75, help me out, what is it gonna be? It's gonna go up to 4,300.
Mhm.
Oh, what's it gonna be?
1075.
75.
1075. So this picture, you really can't see what it is, but I wish my email had gone through. So last week or the week before, there were, and I'm not exaggerating, 50, between 50 and 100 double long loads of the dumpsters that dump sideways, one after another, coming in at the top of 4,300, dumping this big pile and moving straight on down and off the road, and just one after another, where the new houses are onto the paved road. That has been sitting there for a week, 2 weeks. I tried to get, well, you saw the picture of the dust that blows.
On Facebook, I did.
So, what is it? SWIPPE? SWIP? SWIP? Aren't they supposed to be watering any of this as the subdivision goes in? Question? Yes? No?
The question.
Is there no, are they not supposed to be doing any watering then as the subdivision goes in?
Part of the SWIP.
Well, there's been none. There's never been a water truck back there. And the dirt that's blowing is just unbelievable, and it backs right up to my property. So I would appreciate it if they could get a water truck or something. I don't know why we have laws and then they're not enforced and nobody has to be accountable for it. And I'm here speaking, my neighbors, some of my neighbors were supposed to come once here, but nobody else showed up. I guess they don't want to be the squeaky wheel. I don't mind being the squeaky wheel. I've been the squeaky wheel for the 25 years I've been here, and I will continue. Which brings me to my next point. If you could scroll the
From this
drive,
way?
either way, maybe the other way. Nope, that's my. That was your dog. Keep going.
Okay.
It's a
so-
cute dog, though.
See how tinder dry all this is behind me? And that's the area where the next 10 homes are gonna go, which is fine, except for we have kids on their four-wheelers, we have people in all kinds of vehicles, driving, raising holy heck back there. One hot exhaust is gonna ignite that. And my question is, could we get a little bit of support from the police officers or someone? I have 2 huge floodlights because I'm on over an acre on my house, and then my barn's behind, and then I have dirt, which was horses, and then the property. So when I see vehicles back there at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, I do flip on my floodlights to let them know, hey, I don't know what you're up to back there, but we know you're back there. I know Mittens do the same thing. They also have the floodlights. So I don't know. I'm just concerned about fire. So they're really the 3 things: the police officers, the water, and fire. And as we grow, we really need to worry about those things. Seems to me that as a city council, and I could be wrong, but as I keep hearing that, well, all they have to have is permission. The developers have to have water right. They have to be able to provide that they can provide culinary water and secondary water, and then the building permits can go through. Correct?
That's the main ones. Yeah,
Okay,
but there's
in
other.
terms of
yeah.
water. So, but I haven't seen any restrictions on new lawns being put in on all these homes. And they're good examples, the roundabout, the new homes, sodded, water's on 2-3 times a day to get the sod to go. To me, that's not good common sense. It's not logical. And I don't know if you have the power as a city council to give building permits, but then put some restrictions on until we are in a better position with the water in our city. To put that on hold.
Yeah, we're looking into all those restrictions, what we're allowed to do and what we're not allowed to do, because first off, it's all Pineview controls secondary water.
Yeah.
And
I've
we
heard
would
that.
like them to, we would really like them to control the secondary water because it's kind of toothless, if that makes any sense.
Mhm.
But anyway, we are looking into it. I
I
really can't comment too much because it's not on the agenda. So that's why it's comments to the council, and we're all sitting here looking at you like, and I know you
are.
want
You're giving me
answers.
that dumb look. Are you mean to give me that blank look?
I know you
like,
want answers to all these
geez,
questions,
does she
but,
think we haven't talked about
Yeah.
these things or something?
but
but
we're
I-
really not allowed by law to talk about stuff not on the agenda. But
Oh.
we'd like to take your input and we can get back with you on it.
Well,
So,
okay, I went to the wrong meeting. I went before I thought it was a public hearing. It was a public meeting before the commissioners, and I knew I was at the wrong meeting when there were 4 people who'd been invited and 1 me. But they let me speak, and those are my concerns as a citizen of Pleasant View, is how are we going to grow Pleasant View in a responsible manner, because it is the city council's responsibility to make sure that all the citizens in Pleasant View rights, stay at a level that is well managed.
Mayor, can I just make one comment really quick?
sure.
Ms. Reeves, and I appreciate what you're saying, and definitely we can't comment too much, but we went through about a 2.5-year moratorium on building. I don't know if you remember
Yes,
that.
I
Just
remember.
It's not too long because of that exact issue.
Mhm.
And we spent quite a bit of money hooking into some other water sources
Right.
to do that. So those things are being looked at. So anyway, just to ease your mind a little bit on that one particular thing.
Yeah.
It was a huge thing. We shut everything down. And so.
Well, and I
we-
don't advocate for that because
But we do care because water is precious. So.
yeah,
you're
it's just,
right.
we are in a position this year where everybody's super nervous about fires, and we're letting if we're being good citizens, we are doing the 2 days a week watering, and our yards are turning to tinder.
Yep.
And so that's my concern, and I guess there's not much you can say about it. I'll shut up in a minute. I don't know if the council has the authority, but maybe xeriscaping is something, pole patch is a good example of those were 5-acre minimums, but only a certain percentage of that 5 acres can be landscaped. And I realize that's a different situation because they do not have the secondary water, but, it just might, I'm just throwing out some thoughts. And the last thing, the picture didn't turn out very well. I was curious about, there is a property that is on my street on 900, not far from the elementary school. And it's over a half probably, and the whole back of it is full of cars and trucks and looks like a junkyard. I'm curious, they do car repairs? Anybody
Not sure what
aware of
property you're
this? Of
talking
what
about.
I'm talking?
Above
which
the high
is-
school or above the junior or elementary?
Mhm. On the east side. They always have tons of cars they're working on out front too. I was curious if they had
He'll email me the address. We'll look it up, and if we don't
they
have
had
anything,
a business license to do that in a residentially zoned.
No, I don't. They're probably storing them or I don't know what they're doing.
They're not storing.
Yeah, if you could get us
Work
the
on 'em.
address, we're happy to help.
Okay,
Yeah, we'll look into it.
okay. I think that's about it.
Thank you.
Sounds to me like you need to be on the planning zoning commission.
Well, I would like to be. I'm getting old though, and I was gonna run. for
Hello?
council. I was gonna run for council a million times because I'm always down here, shooting off my mouth about my thoughts, but it's other people talk to me about it and I don't know. Yeah, put me on the planning commission. I'll give them a run for their money. Thank
Somebody,
you for your time, and I
Thank
want
you,
you to,
Luann.
each one of you to know, I do appreciate what you do and the time you put in.
thank you.
It is appreciated.
Thank you.
Comment in the back, Mayor.
yeah, was there another?
Good afternoon. Bear with me. I've never stood up and done this before. I want to start with just saying how appreciative I am. for
Could you state your name? so
Oh,
we
sorry.
get
Yeah,
on
my
the
name is
record?
Shane Lyon. I live at 3056 North, 1100 West, and I've lived
Yeah.
here for 5 years.
Okay.
And so I brought a concern to the attention through the Pleasant View Facebook page. And this is how awesome this is. I got a response from the city in 3 minutes. I'm not joking, 3 minutes. How awesome is that? Within 5 minutes or 4 minutes, I got a text from Ann. And within 45 minutes, I got a call from Sergeant Clark. How cool is that? That definitely increases your faith in government. So thank you. But the reason that I was sending a message was to discuss and just to bring to attention the street of the stretch road on 1100 West. And more specifically, what I'm talking about is between Highway 89 and Mountain Orchard Drive. It's crazy with speeders. It is absolutely insane with the amount of cars that are speeding up and down that road, more specifically in between that individual block. The next stop sign from Highway 89 is on 3400, I believe. No, 31. No, I think it's 3400. Or no, sorry, Mountain Orchard Drive. the next stop. Then 3400. And there's so many families that are moving in. There's so many kids, including my own kids that are 6 and 10. They're on that road that's just becoming so busy with these cars that are just, I mean, they're clocking 40, 50 miles an hour. It's like as fast as they can hit either way they go. And so my goal today was just to bring it to the attention and potentially just suggest a 4-way stop on 3100 North and 1100 West. I've seen some of the roads that actually have the radar just showing that that's there. And again, just to bring to the attention to of the city and the city council, just kind of watch that because it's getting busy over there. And I know we do have another neighbor here that actually lives on 3100. Do you want to say something? That's all I have. That's
Okay.
easy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Shane.
My name is Clint Louder. I live at 3090 North, 1100 West. I'm just a couple houses up from Shane. We have a new home. We've only been in here 2 years. And we have a nice porch to it. And we spend quite a bit of time between the back porch and the front porch. So we're out front quite a bit. And there's been some days we've had to actually go back inside because you've got so many little kids that are just totally clueless as to the speeders on 1100. They're on skateboards, they're on four-wheelers, they're on go-karts, and they're young kids. And we've watched some kids that have narrowly missed being flattened on 1100. And so I'm concerned about hearing a noise and going out there and seeing some kid that's underneath the car just flattering a pancake. So we're concerned about the speeding on that street. So we would, I mean, I would appreciate either like a speed control, like goes over on, I think it's 11 or 1000 West, or a four-way stop. Or I think I don't know if you have the means to do it, but if you could monitor the speed of vehicles that is on that street for just like for a month to see that what I'm saying is accurate. I mean, it's not only you know, people, but you wouldn't believe how fast a bus can go from 89 to my corner. And I have waved like this, and they wave back because they're going like 45 miles an hour. And cement trucks will hit 40, 45 between 89 and my intersection too. And those guys are totally concerned with other things, with business. So I just would please ask that I don't have to see some little kid that's flattened out there in the street underneath the car, and I got to go out and try to help him.
Okay.
So I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Have people sign the roll. I think not everybody's signed the roll.
Okay, yeah, is it going around?
It's still there. There's a lot that signed it, but I think there's a lot.
If you haven't signed the roll, we'll pass it around and we need you to sign the roll for the record. Let me address the speed. I don't know if anybody reads my newsletter or not, but pretty much every newsletter for the last year, I've addressed speeding. And I've talked to other mayors and throughout the state. And I will tell you this, Utah is horrible for speeders. We stink. And of course, anybody using the freeway probably knows this. You can be going 75 miles an hour and there are people just fly by you. Over Memorial Weekend, the Highway Patrol wrote over 600 tickets for people going over 100 miles per hour in one day. It's crazy. That's the number one complaint throughout our city. And I'm finding out that is the number one complaint through most cities is speeding. And like I said, I really not sure. We're all at a loss because it really seems to be a Utah thing. How to fix this, but we can address specific hot zones and do the best we can. But boy, if people would just slow down, and if you got teenagers, talk to them. You know, that was 2 messages ago. Talk to your teenager. So anyway, enough about that. That's usually a count, not, I don't know if they can make them for speed or not, or if we have them, but. Okay, anybody else? If not, we'll move on to the consent items, which is the bills of Pleasant View City. Everybody had a chance to review those, and if so, any changes or corrections? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
Mayor, I'd make a motion that we approve the consent items.
I'll second the motion.
Okay. Any further discussion? Oh, sorry. Motion by Marriott, second by Bailey. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. First item of business. Recognition of the 2021 Founder's Day Grand Marshals, Jerry and Cynthia Naylor, and the 2021 Founder's Day Honorary Grand Marshals, Marshal Rulon Ashcroft. Steve Gibson and Sarah Uri. Steve is over our Founder's Day this year. I'm going to let him say what he wants to say, and then I'll wrap it up. It's so good to have you here. This is kind of new. You know, we've had grand marshals before, but we've never really recognized them. And these are awesome people in our community, just awesome. So go ahead, Steve.
You know, I've been on the city council for 8 years, and I love Founder's Day. I love the meaning, the togetherness and everything that comes together. And our Founder's Day theme is a tradition for generations. And I think that's just, it says a lot about these two or three people right here. And I'm going to not separate them as I talk about them a little bit, the Grand Marshal and Honorary Grand Marshal. Because as I thought what I wanted to say, I know that, and I can speak for the entire council, we all love Pleasant View and what it represents. And it's a great place to live. And those of you who've been here for a year or 2 years, welcome. You know, those of you who've been here for 40, 50, 60 years, thank you for those things. And we need to carry that on. And I've known these two families for a lot of years, and I appreciate that. And I had the opportunity to nominate both of them, and the committee unanimously said yes. And Jerry and Cynthia Naylor are just, as I talked, and as I got to know Jerry especially, he served on the city council, and you can read the bio in our newsletter and things. I won't go through that. But he was on one of the first committees to approve Founder's Day. And he used to tell me that story years before I was even on the council. And he and Cynthia both love Pleasant View. And they've been great examples. And what else can we say? We're so thankful that we can honor them as our Grand Marshals this year. And Rulon, what can we say about Rulon? And I've said this many times. And I've known Rulon. I got to be a church representative to he and his family for a lot of years. And I thought I had a wonderful relationship with Rulon. I thought it was so special. And I thought I was the only one that had that. But as I talked to everybody else, he has that same relationship with everybody that he meets. And it's so, I mean, these people are the people we want to represent and honor on this Founder's Day. And Sarah, I'll give her credit for this. She had a wonderful idea. And this is the first year that I know of that we've been able to honor the Grand Marshals, the Honorary Grand Marshal in our council meeting. And it's a tradition that I hope that we can continue on because of all of the goodness that it represents. And then that's, I say it all the time, that's what's right with America. This is what's right. What these people represent is what's right about Pleasant View. And I love it. And, both of them are military, have served in the military. They honor the flag. They honor the things that just represent what's right with America. And I'm so thankful that we have this opportunity and that they're here today. And just like to give them a round of applause. Can we do that? Mayor has some.
Yeah, Sarah's gonna, while I say just a few comments, I believe Jerry and Cynthia moved into Pleasant View a year before I was born. So that tells you how long they've been here. 56, was it? I was born in 57. I think you moved into Pleasant View in 1956. Rulon moved into the area. I'm not sure exactly, around 75. Which is when I was graduating from high school. So they've all been here a long time. I've known the Naylors for a long time with mom and dad and just growing up in Pleasant View and being here. They were a household name. And I don't know if it was just my household because of mom and dad who were friends. But anybody I talk to in Pleasant View knows them and love them. Rulon, the first time I really got to know you was 3.5 years ago when May invited us to a meet the candidate over at her house. And that's when and yet from that day started that day, he's treated me like an old friend. Every time I've seen him or it's just, you're just an amazing amazing people. I'm grateful that we started this new tradition because we do have amazing people who live in Pleasant View, and to be able to honor some of them is truly a wonderful thing. Thank you so very much for what you've done for Pleasant View, all the years of your service and everything. You're just fabulous people. Thank you so much. Anybody else like to add or say anything?
Just a big ditto that.
Ditto,
Amazing.
yeah.
Thank you so much. We're so grateful you're in our community.
Okay, I'll turn it back over to Sarah, or did you already?
No,
Okay.
I think that if you'd like to come up so we can give you these.
So let's start with ruling for a minute here.
Come on down to council.
We've got a little letter of thanks. We've got of course, your salary tickets, which is the most important. Invite everybody to the salmon bake. We'll give you that. And we were gonna pin the sash on, but I thought that was too. And we won't do that. We'll do that for the Saturday. And the mayor, his son, plaque. 2021 Founder's Day Grand Marshal, honoring Grand Marshal.
That's one little horse. My dad said, Hoover, how can you keep that? First, there's a person, hey. Right. You got Kevin to smile. Always last place. Come on up. Come on up.
Gary said the other night, I called Jerry the old toad. I called him the old man forever. But he's a good friend. So same thing, we expect you, hopefully, if you can, to come down to the salmon bake, tickets. You don't have to, or don't stand in line either. Just, yeah, you get a first, front of the line. Yeah, don't be standing in the line. Come up and get a seat. Around the six. Do you want to say anything?
Yes, I talked for hours.
I invite you to have a little bit.
Sitting here watching what's taking place. I've got for 8 years. And there's lots of things that went on. But you can see it out. It's surrounding. There's no way you can explain what the way it used to be. Because it used to be. Now it's sure regarding sources on the road.
You guys can stay or you can take off if you want. You don't have to listen to the rest of it.
You know, we still do deal with a lot of stuff on the road.
Some of it's on the road, some's
Some
not.
of it's not on the road. Thank you again. It's been wonderful. Thanks to your family members that have shared this with you.
What this means to me, see, that's the progression. What facility you guys have got. We gotta take over.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Saturday morning,
You really.
1:45, be ready. 9:45, Saturday morning, they'll pick you up. Or Debbie? Debbie? Did you give them instructions and everything? Did you pass that on? Or do you want?
There's a town council back then. But
Okay.
Dad was on there.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you for the treats, by the way, too, Roland. Thank
Yes,
you.
thank you.
Yes, yeah,
Thank
I
you.
forgot to thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Have a great night.
All right, item 2 is discussion and possible action regarding a 1-year progress review on an action that granted an exemption to the home occupation conditions to allow a person other than a bona fide resident of the premises and conduct outside the primary structure of the premises for contractor business at 3400 North, 1000 West, tabled from May 25th, 2021, a meeting I wasn't in attendance to. I was dealing with family issues. Thanks for Kevin for filling in. And I've been somewhat brought up to speed. It was my understanding that you gave them a month to come back with kind of a plan or whatever to address the items that are outside this issue. It says, Laurie, you're the presenter.
Yes, would you like me to start?
Yeah.
Okay. Microphone. Okay, so all of you have received the staff report, and I did forward it to the mocks, so they also have it. We've had some correspondence going back and forth, and I did CC all of you guys on those correspondence. Staff recommendations are still the same. We are recommending approval to the one issue where there's only one person who is a bona fide resident of this premise shall be employed on the premise. To us, that is okay. We've issued a lot of businesses like that, and we're recommending she can have the one office person if she would like to, but we are recommending denial of all these other issues. And it's issue B, that it will not physically change the dwelling. Issue item C, that the business is conducted wholly within the primary structure, and also F, that it will not generate vehicular traffic, and I will not create a demand for municipal services. And so the reasons for denial is it has changed the physical characteristic of the home. It does look industrial. And in the staff report, we actually pulled the different zones and what we would allow for open storage in those zones. So in a CP1, and it's a conditional use permit. In a CP2 and a CP3, it's a permitted use. In a C2, it's not even listed, so it's not even allowed. And that's your whole area down along 2700. In an MCM, which is a mixed commercial manufacturing, open storage is not allowed. And then you have it also the MCM. It's a conditional use if the open storage is part of the principal use. And in those areas, if they were to come in and want a business and it had open storage, we now would require them to have a masonry wall around their open storage. Not just a fence of any sort, but it would be a masonry wall. We've had several complaints, and I think we've been going back and forth today. We received the 8 complaints, and seven of them are different people, and 1 had 2 complaints. As I said in the emails, we do not give out names of complainers at all. There are increased traffic on that street with all their vehicles going in and out, with the employees, their vehicles going in and out. Just it's different than what a regular residential would be. And we also noticed that their municipal water usage is a lot more than what a regular home would be. And also, if we do grant this, we gave you a list of different contractors in the city, and we have a little map and we dotted where they live. So if these guys get them, there's no reason why somebody else would want to come in and ask for the same exemption and have open storage throughout the city. So those are the reasons for denial from the staff. I don't know if you have any questions for me, but that's just kind of where we are at.
Okay. So was this information presented at the original meeting that Laurie just covered?
No.
No,
this is
no,
staff
all of
report.
Okay.
We decided we would do a staff report on staff's reasons.
All right. All right. Questions for Laurie before I turn it over to?
Can you define staff?
Yes, this actually came from me. It actually came from Jill, which is planning and zoning, and Debbie, which is business licensing.
Okay, thank you.
Laurie, the map here, those are home business, but construction related. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, so we gave you a list. Debbie printed out the list of businesses that we currently have, and then we actually put them on the map of where they would be in the city. So this is where they have business licenses, but they do not have open storage.
Okay.
But if this is allowed, this is a possibility where you may have open storage.
Okay.
All right, Darcy.
Worked on there. If not, I do have a PowerPoint presentation to show pictures and other items as well that oh, good, there it is. Okay, so to start with, our lot, you can see there in red, our lot is that location. Our lot itself is 2 acres. And it's a deep lot. If you look at it compared to even the subdivision lots, it's significantly larger in nature itself, as well as the lots that are right next to it. It's even wider than the standard lot right there. That lot, with it being 2 acres, if we were just using it for just manicured land, which it was when we moved in, that would be 2 acres of water that would be used, which was originally pasture that was fully watered. Go ahead and go to the next page. In 2000, I went back and looked at the history of when it has been sold and kind of the turnover with it. It's been sold in 2001, 2006, 2008, 2013, 14. We purchased it in 2016. We purchased it, and when we purchased it, within a week after we purchased it, we had multiple neighbors come over and say, "Oh, please tell me you're not just going to sell this again. Please tell me you're going to do something with this yard because it's a nightmare." Go to the next page. With that as well, we've also increased the property value with it to the point that what used to be one of the lowest on the street now is one of the highest. Go ahead and go to the next page. That's what it looked like to start. That's what the pool area looked like. That's what it looks like now. Next, that's what the front view looked like. That's what the front view looks like now. It didn't happen overnight by any means. We remodeled the full inside of it. I believe that the reason that it had been flipped so many times is because it was a non-functioning house. We gutted the whole interior. We pulled out all the asbestos. We put everything in that was, there's not a light in that house that is not low. It's all energy saving. Go ahead and go to the next page. And actually, I'm going to have you jump one more page. And then the next thing that we started doing last year when we tore the whole yard up, which is where the complaints started, was initially, like I said, the whole lot was completely, it was all watered. We took all of that, we dug out all the sprinklers, we re-piped everything. So only the green and the red lines there are now watered. It's a huge water reduction. We do have a pool that we fill this year, and we did have a water leak because a lot of this was done at the end of the season last year. And we did have a water leak that happened last month that did increase our water usage. But overall, our water usage is significantly less than what it was. My point with showing these things is showing that it's a work in progress, but it's by nature of the lot, it's a work in progress. We're not just flipping it over. We're trying to find a way to make that useful. If you drive up and down 1000, those lots aren't used and manicured the whole way back. If we're looking at how that code is written, that it's with the residential feel of the neighborhood, this is along the lines of the residential feel of the neighborhood. The front yard and backyard are manicured to a point, and back behind that is a shop area. It's something that they're working in the backyard. Go ahead and go back one. Our business setup is not that we're working in our backyard. Our business setup is that we've got a few trucks that we park there at night, and our guys come before 7 a.m. and they park in our backyard, not in the front, they park in the backyard. And then they take the trucks, they load them with the equipment that they need for the day, they leave. And then when they're done with the day, they return. They're not using the equipment on site. They're not, it's not a work environment there. It's a staging and leaving and coming back and getting their vehicles and going again. We do store materials, but you'll see in a minute what our plan is for that. But the work is done off-site. And if the equipment is being used, that equipment's being used to further landscape our lot to be able to make it more eco-friendly as well as more user-friendly, so it is more sustainable as well. We don't have any utilities at all that are being used back there with regards to the business. There's no water usage. In fact, we have a spigot out there that was by our pasture for our goats. And it wasn't until last week that they realized that wasn't secondary water. They're not using any of that water for any, there's no need for it. It's not, we don't need water at all for it. So we're not using any utilities. There is a light that we have out there. That light is solar. And so there's no draw even on power for it. Go ahead and the next. As for vehicular traffic, how the code is written, it says home occupation shall not generate vehicular traffic not commonly associated with the zone in which it's located. Traffic commonly associated with 1000 West. I made an observation during the same time that the hour that my crew left and the hours that they were returning, 3 out of 10 vehicles were a similar setup as the trucks that were leaving and the trucks that were coming back. And that was within a 2-hour period. I can get the exact numbers, but proportionally it's 3 out of 10. We're not interrupting traffic. All personal vehicles arrive before 7 a.m. and they leave just one at a time. Within the last 2 weeks, we've taken data on when they're leaving and when they're returning. Only a third of the time have they ever had to wait for one vehicle to even get onto the road. We're not impeding traffic. Because I wanted to make sure, if this is a problem, I wanted to make sure that we're not making it worse. We're not having people hooked up behind us. Like I said, just 1 out of 3 times do they even have to wait for another vehicle. With swimming lessons, you can have up to 40 students a week, which is typically more than once they're coming a week. We're generating significantly less traffic than that. If I have 6 total guys that show up on one day, 2 per vehicle, I have 6 guys that come in before 7 a.m. and then they're leaving 2 at a time. Because they don't all get back at the same time. They don't all leave at the same time because they take different times to just put their truck together. And it's typically by 7:15 to 7:30 in the morning that they're leaving. Go ahead and go to the next one. As for the residential fill, the home occupation will not physically change the dwelling to the extent that it would alter the residential character of the dwelling. The dwelling as defined is our home. We have not changed our home. We did have a permit to have an addition put on, of which that permit's expired, which we're not going to be putting that addition on. But that was for an addition for a garage with some room above it. That doesn't change the nature. Even with that, which we're not doing, we haven't changed the nature of the dwelling itself. The next portion of that same part says alter the residential character of the dwelling or the residential atmosphere of the neighborhood in which it's located. Furthermore, it shall not disrupt the peace and quiet, including radio and television reception of the neighborhood. So with the complaints that have come, when we did have the addition, the complaints with how the complaints were presented, they were all tied to the addition, not to the business itself. The weeds, there were weeds out there. 9, but as I drove up and down 1,000, there's 9 properties with weeds higher than 18 inches tall. We don't have the weeds anymore. So it's kind of a moot point at that, but there's also other properties that have that. As for equipment in the backyard, then there's 12 properties on 1,000 with similar types of equipment, a skid steer or a mini excavator that's visible from the street view. And that's in the middle of the day, not even when they're out being used. So there's 12 properties with a similar type that are not housed in a garage. As for material and open storage, there's 7 properties on 1,000 West with materials visible from the street and stored on their property as well. As for noise, the equipment that we use is not being used on our site. Like I said, I requested the dates that the complaints came in, because I have the dates of when we had construction happening, when we had landscaping happening, because we did tear the whole yard up and we had people there working on landscaping. And I'm extremely grateful that we did right now, because I don't want to be using that water that we would have been using right now. I think that as much as they complained at that point, I'm extremely grateful that we did that. So with the noise, we don't have that. We've got more noise coming from the pickleball courts every day than we do anything else. I'm not in here begging for a sound barrier from the pickleball courts as much as my husband, who's here, would love me to be doing that. We're not asking that. We're just asking to be able to run our business that isn't any different than what's happening up and down 1,000. Go ahead and go to the next one. Click play on this. This is going up and down 1,000. So I'm just turning up 1,000 right here. And as we drive up 1,000, if you can identify where all of this is, but you can see even in front of me, there's a truck with a trailer on it. That's what drives up and down that street. We've got equipment over on our left. We've got buildings. I'm not asking to be able to do something that's not being done on that street. When we moved here, we moved out of an area that was very similar to Jacob's Mill, which is very attractive to a lot of people. We moved here because of this view right here. As we drive up, my dad even pointed it out the first time he came to visit. He said, "You've got the American Dream Street." I said, "What are you talking about, Dad? That doesn't make any sense." He's like, "No, you drive up that street and you know people on that street, they own their own business. They're working hard. It's like you can see it just by the nature of what's out there." That's the residential character of the street. And all of you know, as you drive up and down 1000, that's what it is. I've got a letter from one neighbor saying that he hasn't complained about any noise. I said, "Do we make any noise?" And both of them said, "No, we don't." I've got another neighbor here as well that's on my other side. If we want to get into the nitty gritty, do you ever hear this? That? But we're not changing any of that. I believe that we're accentuating what what the purpose of what we have on that street with deep lots, then by nature with those deep lots, it's attractive to people with a certain mindset and with a certain desire of how to utilize that. My guess is it's not to mow it. Unless some of you guys know somebody that really likes to mow it. And so that's my request, is that we can run it. Go ahead and go to the next page. Or the next one again. Like I said, the trucks with trailers throughout the day, that's the atmosphere of 1000. Equipment in backyard. The property's not just the lawn, it's storing something. The property is shop or storage equipment. That's what it is up and down 1000. And it's too much of a lot to water. Go ahead and go to the next. So what we've done within the last year, while we didn't put the shop up, we did address the things that were making the complaints. We've gotten rid of the weeds in the front. We have leveled out the area that when we did dig the pit for the addition, that's been leveled out. We fully landscaped and controlled the water issues in the front yard and in the backyard. If you look at the green line there, since we were here last month, we've planted a privacy hedge fence that will grow up to 15 feet tall along the green line. We've also put up temporary blocks of screen along the yellow. And what we're proposing is that by June 2022, that in the red area there, that we have a shop, and that by June 2023, that if we still need, based with the shop, if we're not able to store all of our equipment and material in the shop, that by 2023, we have a masonry wall along the yellow. So that's our proposal. Go ahead and go to the next page. The shop will be something in this manner, and the masonry wall will be of that. So that's our request, is that with where we are right now, that knowing what we've done with the property, where we're going with the property, how the code's written, is that we could request to be able to continue to run our business. We're not wanting to be there forever. We're wanting to grow and expand. But anybody that has ran a business knows that you don't do that overnight. You've got to be able to gain capital, and then things like COVID come and it throws your whole world around because steel prices just went crazy. So my request is to let me continue to be a member of the community and not have to move. That's where it comes right now, is because when I've been looking at different locations, I'm looking at what used to be $2,000 to rent is $5,000 now to rent. So if I can stay here, I can be productive in the community. I can continue to donate a lot of money to to the elementaries and the junior highs and the sports programs. And I can continue when a tree falls on my neighbor's yard and their house, that I can go over with my equipment and take it off of them for no problem. And then when we have a huge windstorm, that I've got a dump trailer that we can throw everything in and get it taken care of. That's what I'm asking. I'm not asking for a whole lot of things that are different going on up and down the street.
Okay, thank you. Council. Sarah? Yeah. Who are you?
He's my neighbor.
My name's Art Bingham. I live next door to Darcy and Ryan, and I have lived in Pleasant View 4,015 days. I just did the math on that because Gibby was going to ask me that. So the complaint box is always full of complaints. Very rarely do you get the good things people are doing. And then you guys unfortunately hear all the complaints, and then you try to make decisions off of only hearing the complaints. I've been here literally 4,015 days is how long I've lived in Pleasant View. And I've spent my time, not all my time, but getting to know my neighbors and being up and down the street and being part of our community and feeling like you need to contribute to be, if you want to get something back, you have to give something out or put something out. Darcy and Ryan are amazing neighbors. They're amazing people. And I hate the concept of like, we're going to point at you because I have 3 fingers pointing back at me. And that's my mom always said, don't point at anybody because you got 3 fingers pointing right back at you. And I hate the idea of somehow our happiness is affected on how her property looks, whether we agree with it or disagree with it, how somehow that's going to affect my happiness level. Number one, the noise is pretty intense at my house because I have 7 kids. And so I don't know if you make any noise or not because we got enough noise at my own place. But I love the idea of that she can run her business, operate her business. And not all my neighbors are here tonight, but I live next door. Our properties connect in the back and I have no complaints. And I know a lot of my neighbors and sometimes you'll hear complaints from somebody else, but they won't go directly to the person. And I have not heard complaints from our neighbors. They're living right around Darcy and Ryan. So I just felt like I needed to stand up and like be in their corner somewhat. That I feel like it's that we need to value the people way more than we value what something looks like and how we feel something is operating, because the people are way more important. And that's what makes a good community. And when we treat people like people, we'll all be better off for it. Did you guys have any questions for me?
No. Thank you. Perfect.
I will just piggyback off what I said. I spent yesterday afternoon walking up and down the street, knocking on doors, talking to neighbors. 0 complaints. Now, were they just saying that because I was who I was? Maybe, but not a single name. Not.
Sarah, you had a comment? Or I'm sorry.
No, I'm done. I
Okay.
just wanted to, I mean, it's not the neighbors that complain. Is it a competitor? I don't know. Is it someone way down the road or way up on the hill driving down one? I don't know who's complaining and we don't know. So it's like,
But what we do know is whoever is complaining has the same type of business that I. And
that's been made obvious. Yeah.
yeah, that's the only detail.
Can I make a comment? I don't know if you can hear me or not.
First, I'm going to take Councilmember Yuri's
Who was
comment. She's
that?
been waiting.
Oh, I didn't know you were on Zoom, but.
I didn't know we could feedback on it.
I think it's a different neighbor.
Oh, that's okay. Go ahead, Sarah.
He's up there.
No, just I appreciate your presentation. I appreciate your well thought out message and the things that you've gone through to, to explain and to inform us of what's going on. As far as I don't think it feels very personal because this is your business. It feels like a very personal issue. I guess the way that the law is written and the way the ordinances are written and what Lori presented, it's true. If we allow you, not everywhere within an RE20 zone gets to have what you get to have, because the state law and the way that the law works is everything has to be equal under the law. So we don't grant exceptions, we don't grant things like that. And so when my concern is not maybe everybody would go to quite lengths as you, maybe to take care of your property. And so then again, I have to think about what would I like next to my house? Because I live in an RE20. The way that the language is written, it's not just for Darcy Mock, it's for everyone who lives in a residential zone. So then we would have to change the ordinance to allow industrial businesses within a residential zone.
It's not an industrial business. It's
Okay, a
storage.
construction business, a storage business, what have you. And so we would have to define that for anyone. It can't be just your street. We don't spot zone. It can't be 1,000. It can't be site selective, because everything has to be equitable under the law. That's what I'm trying to get at. It's not just you.
But,
It's everything with, hang on.
okay, sorry.
It's everything within a residential zone. It's not specific to you, because if we allow you and not someone else, then things are not being treated fairly or equitably. And then we're in a lot of trouble, because government is there to protect the individual as well as the masses. And if when the city council or when the general plan was created, everybody got together and said, we want this to be our construction area. We want this to be our industrial area. We want this to be our residential, to protect from different uses. So now we start encroaching, allowing certain uses within residential area. We start to get into trouble, because maybe people on your street don't like it, are fine with it. But would I be okay with that next to my house? No, I wouldn't. To be really, really honest with you, would it be okay with somebody else? But I would have to allow it. Because if you get it, well, then let's take care of it. Let's start moving forward and enforcing our laws. That's how I feel, because I don't think everywhere in a half-acre zone, an RE20, should be allowed to have that, because pretty soon overnight, your residential field will change.
So for argument's sake, she's a A2 zone. She
Well,
could
that's
have,
RE20, isn't it?
no, it's A2, and she could
A2.
have,
It's listed on it. If you go back, it's on there. It shows A2
Yeah.
on the back of it.
Yeah, go ahead, Kevin.
even if it's RE20, she can have hogs in her backyard. You wouldn't want that next to you either, but that's legal, right? She can have a pen full of hogs.
A2 ordinance.
Pardon?
She doesn't meet the A2 zoning requirements.
But she, at a minimum, she's a
She asked for it, she wouldn't get
RE20.
it. She wouldn't get it because she doesn't qualify. She's non-conforming right now.
As an RE20?
A2. So anything in
Okay,
A2,
okay,
she
forget
won't
what
get.
I said, sorry.
But she's in an.
If she's an if she's a RE20, she could still have large animals, right?
Yes, she can.
There's been horses there forever.
But that's
I'm
what
just
they're-
saying,
It's
like,
Kevin's turn to talk.
I'm just saying, if we're trying to pull a camel through the eye of a needle here over a stupid ordinance that was written by a human being in error, I believe, for several reasons, and I'll try to explain. First, the ordinance is lacking in that it should say not in the, the business needs to be run in the residence itself, but on the lot. I mean, we have businesses that people do work out back, right, in their backyard, in their shop.
Swimming lessons.
That's
she
legal.
does.
Swimming lessons, like, that's not done
Farming.
in the house.
Anyway,
Yeah, I mean, it's flawed. And all I'm saying is that you don't have to be a rocket scientist to drive up and down 1,000 and see non-conforming nuisance lots, one of which is not the Mox. Has it been that way? Yes, it has been a mess. Have they worked their butts off to fix it and make it right? Yes. And I think it's immoral and absolutely absurd to think that we would punish, I'll use the word punish, I didn't want to, punish one of the few woman-owned businesses in Pleasant View because of an ordinance that I think is flawed. And do we need to fix the ordinance? Yes. Is that Darcy Mock's fault? Absolutely not. In the communication back and forth with the council and Darcy, there's been the accusation was, well, there's too many exemptions being granted. I don't care if there's 10 exemptions. If they all make sense and it's legit, well, so what if there's one or two versus a whole bunch? And some of these are like, they smell of being manufactured, like the water thing. She had a water leak, and she's got a pool, but it wasn't her pool that caused the water to go up. It's like somebody's got an agenda to, like, somebody doesn't like her business for some reason. And it's just unethical. It's wrong, people. It's wrong to do it where it's not American.
Okay, Kevin, I'm gonna add to that.
Excuse me.
So
I think Sarah had the next comment.
I think some.
if you target one business and say, okay, we don't believe this is correct, you have to go, just like you're saying, Sarah, like you have to go enforce everywhere.
Mhm.
The neighbors, the city around the mocks, as far as I can see, don't care. Like, we don't care
Well,
that she's operating.
But other people in other zones that are equal to that might care. And so
might.
that's what I'm talking about. Maybe 1,000 necessarily wouldn't care. But other areas, you can't just, we don't spot zone. It's not just unique to 1,000. Everybody gets it if she does.
No, that's not
It's
true.
not true.
But that's
Not true.
That's not
If
true.
we
not
follow
how
the
it's
law,
written.
if your kids go out and do a
That's-
lemonade stand and I show up and say, hey, where's your business license for the lemonade stand? And then I could call the police.
I
have it
guess
removed.
my
If
question
we're
is,
following the law to a T, that could be done, right?
Our law,
If-
our law allows that if you're seeking something outside, you bring it to the city council, just like it's been done, to ask for
okay,
an exemption to it.
I guess my
And
question.
that doesn't have to be universal. It has to be what the nature of the business is, what they're asking for, what they're doing. It's the process, just like we're doing here tonight.
No,
That's
I
the
agree with
process.
you.
It's not just throw it open to the city.
I
It's
guess my
just,
question is why would you deny somebody else? That would be my question. If you allow it there, why would you say no somewhere else? If it's the same zone?
it depends on what they were asking for.
The
I mean,
same
that's why
business?
it's
I guess
comes
that's
before
my
the city
question
council.
Is more of a, yeah, it's.
Yeah.
anyway.
Mayor, I have some comments.
Mary, we had a comment on there first.
Oh,
too.
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, that's right.
Not a public hearing.
Yeah, it's not.
Oh,
Oh,
okay, sorry.
Who,
It doesn't matter. Either one.
go ahead.
Yeah, so I really appreciate your presentation. That helped me to see what you were thinking about, what you've been doing. And we know we gave you a permit for a year to do this work. I struggle with the way our ordinance is written right now because there are several. I think the lot size specifically has a lot to do with what could be done on the property. And that's why 1,000 West, which is primarily 1 acre plus lots all the way up and down. And there are many businesses on 1,000 West, some of them legitimate, some of them not. But I do think, and Kevin, I agree with Kevin that we need to make some changes there. I'm not sure how that ordinance should be written and how you can write it to make it so that
I do agree
versus
with
our
that, that
RE20 versus A2. I mean, the lot size has a lot to do with that, right? If we went to a normal RE20 area or an RE15, it just wouldn't be conducive to do any type of work that you're talking about or any type of business. There's no way that it could happen on those. I mean, I guess it could, but we would have to discuss those. But I agree with Sarah as well. I don't want to say that, hey, we granted to you that we would grant it to anybody in Pleasant View on an RE20 lot. So I struggle with that because I think business is important to our city. I think it is home-based businesses I think are important, and we got to figure out some way to make that happen. That being said, we had some restrictions and some things we asked for you to do, and I don't think those have been met. I know you've tried really hard in the last month, but we had a year and a month to do a lot of the things that you said you were going to do. I have seen a lot of progress. I know you have grand plans for the place. I've seen I know all of the owners of those properties, and I've seen what they've done with your property. I've seen what's happened over the years. And I think you're trying to do the right things there. I do struggle with going forward because a lot of that hasn't been met. And so that's where I am at right now. But I kind of am leaning towards allowing it, but I struggle with that because the law, the ordinance and the staff and then what they've gone through, that's not meeting it. So
Can I make a point
Steve?
on that?
Just a moment, Steve.
Okay.
And I've struggled with this honestly, because, and I said this last time, we go back a year and we made that exemption or exception, excuse me. And I wish we would have never made it to begin with, but we did. So we're down this road a little bit. And I echo everything Kevin said. And I honestly, I have to go a little bit on his side with this, just because, you know, what would I want if I were there? And I have to speak as a city council person, I have to speak and represent, you know, a fifth of the city. And what do they want? And we do have to walk that line. And then it's just what Dave said, you know, we don't want businesses in all this, the city in residential areas, but the 2-acre lot, you know, in Art, I've been to your backyard and, you know, you've got a nice shop back there, you know, and I don't care what you do in it. You know, you could do whatever you want in it, I guess, but, you know, but you have a nice big shop and I envy that shop. But again, I don't care. I'm not pointing you out. And I hate there were just, I feels like we're picking on your business because of a couple things. And I just can't in good conscience pull the rug out today. I don't think that that's fair. And I really would like to see what's, you know, what things can go, because I have a couple businesses as well, and dollars have to go through in order to do stuff, to build a shop, and they're expensive, and lumber's is out of sight right now. So I get it. And I just so struggle so much. And again, I appreciate the things that Kevin said, because that I'm just pendulum swinging back and forth on what do I do? You know, Dave and Sarah, everybody has his own things, but I'm kind of landing on the side of Kevin with this, just because I want to see success. I would hope that you could come back, you know, in 6 months and say, we have got a wonderful building. We've been able to do this, and we're moving it out, and we've made all these wonderful things. And we're being a success, and we're still loving being a resident of Pleasant View. Thank you for working with me. I mean, that's what I hope that we can do, because that's what I would want if I were in the same position. But but we do have to make sure that it's fair and equitable for everybody. That's the struggle. And that really is the stupid struggle. And you go up and down. And so then we start hammering all the people on 1000 West. What kind of a war are we going to have with that? And I don't know. Anyway, so.
Well, and I appreciate that. And I didn't want to, I definitely am not the woe is me approach. It's not something that I ever like to present or anything like that. And I'm sorry if I'm going to get teary-eyed here. But COVID was real to me. I have an autoimmune condition that made me have to quit a teaching job for 18 years that I was very good at to run this business. I was on chemo prior to COVID. And it had been about 5 years that we had to work through different things to finally find that chemo worked to be able to have it so I could be functional and not stand up here right here and pass out. When COVID hit, I couldn't be on chemo. And they had to pull that. When they pulled that, they took something that was costing me about $100 a month. And the only other option I had was a plasma therapy exchange that is $2,500 a month out of pocket after insurance. My husband works on base, and he works for our insurance and my plasma exchange. Our business is what's keeping us going, but that plasma therapy right now, that's what's keeping me from falling over right now. So yeah, we did have something that came up and made it so we couldn't build the shop, but we did address the things that were making people complain. We addressed the issues in the front. We got our water under control. That wasn't a complaint of anybody, but we realized it was not a thing that we wanted to continue. So we did tear up our whole entire yard. We took something that looked like an oasis to us and turned it into a dirt field, so we could get a better eco-friendly yard. So yeah, we don't have the building up like we were supposed to, but we have addressed the things that were causing the complaints. And we do have a plan in place. If I get here next year, if you grant it to me for a year and I get here next June and I don't have that shop up, I don't care what sob story I give, I shouldn't be granted that at that point. But I do think that we've addressed the complaints. So I'm asking for a year to be able to get that shop up in place. Because even with that, I still have to pay my plasma therapy exchange. I still have that. So we've got a plan to put that shop back there. With even the last week, we have that screen up, so you can't see anything. If you're up at Pleasant View Park, you can't see our backyard anymore. You can't see that. I've got a picture of it here we can look at as well, but you can't see that. But I do have a plan in place, and I know that there's other things on the agenda. So
Mayor.
are there any other questions?
Yeah, thank you, Darcy. Appreciate all the work that's gone into that presentation. And we asked you, like last time, it was our recommendation that you came back and told us what you were going to do to become compliant on these 4 items. I appreciate the efforts you've done to do that. You know, I owned my own business for years. My sister is a business owner herself, and I want you to succeed. But I also am representing Pleasant View citizens too. So I just want you to know, not personal, like I really want your business to succeed. I came and did a site visit. Thank you for showing me around the place. I appreciated that. And I'll be honest, I don't feel like you represented what the site looks like with, you know, the construction and the pieces and stuff. We didn't see that in your presentation. To me, it does feel very industrial. And whether that matches 1,000, I think you're right about 1,000, but the ordinance wasn't written for 1,000. It was written for Pleasant View. And I have to represent Pleasant View. And a lot like all these council members are saying, this is a very tough decision. There's decisions that are black and white, and there's decisions that are just all shades of gray, you know? But I'm wondering, you know, I don't want to lead you down a rabbit hole that says, if you do this, this, and this, then maybe you'll be compliant in a year and maybe it'll be okay. But if you come back in a year and we go, no, that's still not going to meet it. For me, I'd rather see you, instead of putting your money into a shop and building a shop and a fence and all these things that we're talking about to try and make you compliant, I'd rather see you put that money into like a rental where, you know, I mean, my sister runs a lot the same business you do, and she doesn't do that in her backyard in Pleasant View. She has to rent somewhere, as many of these other residents have to that have been listed in our staff report. They have the same types of businesses and they can't run them out of their backyards either. For me, again, not personal. It's just about, like, we need to make sure neighborhoods feel like neighborhoods in all of Pleasant View. So I don't want to pull the rug out from under you. And for me, I like to give you some time to find a place to relocate the construction equipment and supplies and all that stuff. So that's where I'm coming from.
Okay, anybody else?
So what would that
Well,
look like?
I'll go out on a limb one more time. Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion that we approve the exemptions that have been outlined and grant Darcy Mock her business license for an additional year and have her, I hate to bring this back every single year, like every single year. That's not fair to her and her family. But if I had my way, I'd just grant her a business license. But this was her idea.
Mhm.
So I'll make a motion that we grant her business license with the said exemptions for an additional year, at which time we'll review whether or not she's got her shop built and make a decision then.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, motion in a second, motion by Bailey, second by Gibson, discussion.
I mean, just a suggestion and to go along with Ann, instead of reviewing to extend the license, maybe refocus it on finding a place to rent instead of putting more money into your, making yourself compliant, because it's very costly, rather than investing into a place where you can rent to store off-site, allowing the exemptions, the exceptions that the staff has recommended with having your office in your home and things like that. But to find a place where you can store your business at another site.
Mayor, I'd call a vote on the first and the second.
No.
Let me remind Sarah that it's not our place to tell her how to run her business.
No,
Right,
that
um,
was just my
simple.
recommendation. with the
I just,
motion.
I have one concern with the motion that I'll express, then I'll call the vote. That concern is, I want to make sure I understand the motion exactly, because Ann expressed something, but I have the same concern. Is that, if we say, come back in a year, she comes back in a year and the building's built. Do we go through this whole same process again, or
I'm willing to take that risk.
That's, Mayor, that's a concern I have, is we're gonna, and voiced it very good, we're gonna kick it down the road. And at what point, I mean, Darcy
Right.
has mentioned this before, at some point, she hopes her business grows enough that she can be off-site. And at what point does she decide to do that, and how big will the business grow? I think there's a lot of questions there that I struggle with, and
Can I respond to that?
I don't know, Mayor.
we have a call for the vote? So first off, I would say, well, we got to vote on the call for the vote. All those in favor of calling the vote, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? All right, that means we call for the vote. All those in favor of the motion in the second, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Opposed to.
Okay.
I've missed you what you were doing, sorry.
Sorry, the first one, so when you call the question, when you call for the vote, you have to have a vote, make sure everybody's ready to go to the vote.
Gotcha.
And that was the first one. The second one was to go to the actual vote on the motion. So as I understand it, we had 2 ayes and 3 nays. Correct. Okay, motion's defeated.
I'd like to make a motion.
Okay.
I'd like to motion that we grant her approval to have someone come into the home the first, hang on, let me get this right. A person, a bona fide resident, can be in the home employed to help with the office work. And that we give them 6 months to find a place to rent, to move their business, relocate.
Can we
Oh, is that a
change that
motion?
motion to a year?
Sure.
Okay, so, okay, I have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
Sorry, I think we should amend that motion.
Okay, let me restate the motion then. I make a motion that we approve the exemption to allow a person into the home to help with the home occupation, the business part of it. And then I would make the motion that we have them relocate this business in a year's time.
The entire business?
Not just the backyard construction type business, and keeping the person in the house to help with the business portion.
So they'll be able to still run their business from where it's at?
Yeah. The office work and all that can be run from the home.
To clarify, then it would be allowing one of the exemptions versus 4 of the exemptions.
Exactly.
Okay.
Can I make a point on, or,
Go ahead.
okay. I'm fine to take the risk of building a shop and then being denied next year. I'm perfectly fine with that, because one way or the other, I want a shop back there, because even if I don't have people coming in and out, I want some place that I can actually go back and do my work that is secluded. That the different things that I own can be put in there. I'm perfectly fine with taking that risk and having that be there. That's not a problem for me. If we come back next year and say, no, you can't run it, you can't have your guys come here and exchange vehicles or anything like that. I'm perfectly fine with that.
With that motion that we've made, that would fit within that
Yes,
too.
you could reapply for a business license within a
She
year.
could go ahead and build that because we've given her a year anyway.
Mhm.
And so with the motion that as it's made, that would still be fine.
And then I could have presented an option to be able to run anything at
Re-
that point but it wouldn't be assumed that it would be granted.
Right?
I
It would
think
be,
reapply for business at that time, is that correct, or?
To reapply for the exemptions, I believe.
Yes, okay.
I'll second the motion, Mayor.
Okay.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Second it.
I'm sorry. Motion by Arrington.
I do have
second by
a
Marriott.
comment, Mayor.
Okay, go ahead, Steve.
You know, is the question the actual operation of the business, or is it the look? As Ann talked about, it looks like a construction zone. You know, what are we fighting against? Because I don't think anybody's brought up any, you know, the exchange of vehicles. I don't think that's been a problem. It's, to me, it's the look of a construction zone versus a residential area. So, and that's where I have a struggle. I mean, we're concerned with a look.
well,
And we're not concerned, you know, if they were jackhammering or doing something in the back, you know, or causing some grief or something, that's a construction on site. But we're talking, I really think that's, you know, you made that comment yourself. It looks like a construction site or zone, or I don't know exactly what your words were, but is that fair?
Looks
Yeah.
industrial.
it does look,
looks industrial.
but
maybe.
also we do have like skid loaders and like, I
Yeah.
mean, it's not
But,
just
but,
look,
but,
it's
but we
it's
do
noise.
have that in other places. And I just, I just think it's unfair a little bit. And I appreciate what you're saying there. I mean, I'm going to vote against that motion, just to put it out there. Because I just don't think it's fair if we're looking at a look and that we give her a time, especially since COVID. I mean, that's a year out of everybody's life, or a year and a half out of everybody's life that didn't exist. It doesn't exist in the world. You know, everybody was home, you know, things were shut down. And I just think that's unfair, honestly, to put that limitation on this business and to force her to get something, because we've already done that a little bit. And so if she builds it, she says out of her own mouth, if she builds that, we deny it. If it still looks like an industrial construction zone, she said herself she'll move. But anyway, I just wanted to clarify, that's what that's really the crux of the issue, is how it looks. Is that right?
Yep.
Mayor, I have a comment again.
Go ahead, Dick.
Yeah, so looks to me is very important, because it has value to somebody else's property. Yeah, your look devalues the person next door. I think there's a lot to that. And people don't just want to move in or be close to someone like that. So I think you're working on that part of it, but what I do think is that the motion that's standing right now allows you to prove to us and for you to come back. It may not be granted. I don't know that it will be, but I think it accomplishes what everybody's talking about, Steve. I think it accomplishes that too, allows her to make the changes.
Well, and it offers mercy to something that Steve mentioned before of what we put you in a position in granting that. And so it offers mercy into something that, you know, you even proposed yourself in a year. So with Ann's motion, I think that accomplishes both ends. It forces you to reapply, but it also allows you to work on the things that you desire to work on. So.
But I also think that we need to see her in 9 months, because if we're saying in a year, if it's not compliant, then we're going to pull it. Then next time, if it is a year, then we are going to pull the rug out from under her. Like, you know, I would like to have like at least that 3-month window for her to come back in and see us.
We're not in the same.
You get what I'm
position that we
saying?
are now.
Come into.
So, yeah, coming to the
report on our
council.
progress.
Yeah, I'd like to see that in 9 months instead of a year. If in a year's time, we're sending her to find a rental, you know what I'm saying on that?
I mean, that's up to her, I think, right? I mean, because that's going to be a year from the date.
Yeah,
here.
true.
If she wants to make that known to us prior to that time, that she's met all those and apply for it. If not, then she has to be compliant at that
Okay.
date. So.
Yeah.
I think it's fair to you to have an expectation. Does that make sense? So that there's no false pretenses.
I
And
have
I think
I have a
that's-
comment and she's done.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Kevin.
One parting shot, and then I'll shut up. If looks are important, David, if looks are important, we got a problem on 1000 West, and it's not Mox.
That's true.
It's not Mox. If looks are important, then there's like 6 homes we should just demolish.
Agree.
No, I
Agreed.
So she's not the problem. And we are talking about aesthetics, what it looks like. That's the issue. And
Well,
it's
kind of.
this is like immoral, people. This is wrong. We are here to represent the people that elected us, and this is wrong. What we're doing tonight is wrong. Sorry.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. That motion, would you like to restate that, Ann? Make sure it's.
Want me to restate it?
Please.
Third time's the
Can you
charm.
remember?
Well, you kind of added a 9-month twist.
Well, okay, yeah, you're right. All right, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the exemption to have one person working in the home to help with the business and to keep the business functioning from inside the home. And then I'd like to give the business, I'd like to deny the other ones, give them 1 year to find a relocation place.
Or reapply.
Or, yeah, well, they can come reapply with the idea though that we are relocating. Unless they can show us something otherwise that changes our mind.
That sounds, yeah, okay.
The motion seconded, right, Mayor?
Yeah,
Yeah,
so you second that?
I did before. I'm seconding again,
still-
yes.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
I,
Opposed? Aye.
I
So give me the A's, Ann, Sarah, and Dave.
I just don't think that's right. It just doesn't feel right.
I think it's pretty merciful.
pure wrong.
hey,
Please.
And tell all those other 6 families, they're gonna have to relocate as well. You can't target just her. You have to go to everyone and enforce the same law. If you're gonna do it to her, do it to everybody. That's the wrong thing,
Okay.
because you won't go to the other ones. You'll just pick on her.
So 9 months, maybe. Let's reach out to us and see where you're at. And
Ask any questions to people that are on here.
no, we're done with this item, so.
Thanks, Darcy.
Discussion and possible action, item 3, discussion and possible action to approve Harris Hills Phase 5 preliminary subdivision for 10 lots located at 1075 west between 2200 north and 4300 north. Jill.
Sorry, Jill. Yes.
Okay. This is the location. The owner is Leroy Harris. Martin Jones is the applicant. There's just over 7 acres right there, and then the proposed lots is 10. This is the layout of the property. Hopefully you're able to have it. The rest of the 10 expires after 40. There's that protection area. That protection area is for our well. There are restrictions on that. Flat to protect the well and everything. It does have the detention pond, but it's not in this phase. It's original and it's farther down on. And verify that it does have the capacity.
I don't think it's on. Is it on?
Or there's a spot here.
Well, up there.
Thanks, Chief. That's all right. All right, so like I stated, there's restrictions on lot 33 through 36, and that is due to the well that's right there. So there are restrictions and it will be recorded on the lot when, or with the plat when that's recorded. The detention pond,
What are the restrictions?
the restrictions, we have to be careful with pesticides and everything that will be laying or be put on the lots, because that's where our recharge area is. And we have to be careful with the well that's right there. Oh,
How in the world are we going to monitor that?
Tyson, where'd he go?
To get you some batteries.
Okay. Tyson would be a great one. The guys actually go up there every so many days. They walk that, they check along the borders, they mow those. So that would be one thing that they would watch.
Is there's no way you're going to be able to monitor if you put any Roundup or anything on that or something.
I understand that
I don't know what the
completely.
restriction, but is it any chemical? Or is it, I mean, what kind of restrictions would that be?
It would be any chemical. We have to be careful because that is part of our
I
drinking
don't think you can
well.
have a lot there if it's in a chemical. I don't.
But is that inside our fenced area or is it just on the
No.
border of it?
It's, the fence
We have-
area is
'cause-
right on.
Because we have
the
a
border.
protection zone that we fenced. And this
Mhm.
this is coming up to that area. Is that correct, Carson?
Yes.
Sure.
That microphone's now functional, so you're,
Sorry.
you're good.
So
Whoops.
this, oh, easy.
Oh, you really broke it now.
Going on out here. So this is the source zone owned by the city is that eastern boundary right there on the east of lot 36 and 35 and 38. The source protection actually extends out beyond what the city actually owns. So this source protection is actually zone 3, which is a 30-year. What is zone 3? What's that? Might be a 15-year travel period, but we are, I mean, this is the least restrictive
Area, yeah.
protection, yeah, that the source protection has. So this just basically says on the plat, we have a plat note that says if any contamination happens into the system, all of our lots are going to be graded away from the source. It's all going to come back to the street. That's part of our regulation in this phase. And if any contaminants are found in the water system, that they'll go back and try and find whoever contaminated it.
I mean, I can see if you have a home occupation back there with oil or something, you know, that you're discharging.
Sure.
I can see that being a problem, but I don't know how you'd say pesticides or fertilizers or anything like that.
It's basically just a heads up to say, use common sense in this.
Yeah, that you're being in a,
You can't. how do you-
yeah, I don't know how you enforce it. That's the problem. I mean, I'm not
I agree.
saying that we deny the thing, but putting that on half of a lot and half of a lot and, you know, full 35 lot, I don't know
They-
how much sense that makes.
We had it on, this has changed since our last phase, right? Our last phase had source protection 30 feet further west, and some things change and it's not there anymore, but that little triangle on lot 24 is source protected in zone 24 in phase 4. So it's a weird thing. I don't know how we govern it either.
Can you tell me, Jill, what 4,300, I mean, I tried to see on this what exactly they're doing on 4,300, but
They're just improving just that one side, not the full 4,300, just that small portion on that one side.
and how wide is that?
I believe that is 35 feet. 40,
4007?
I believe it's 40,
Where are we talking? The whole all along?
just that one half. We aren't requiring the full 4,300 because the impact from that one subdivision wouldn't
So what are they doing?
require for
Just
the
curb and
full.
gutter on one side or what?
Curb and gutter and asphalt on that one side. So it's their portion that they would impact of 4,300.
40
That's the
feet into the
question.
road, all
What
the
is-
way along the whole top. Okay, that
Mhm.
makes sense.
And
Jill, I didn't think we did half streets.
It's technically, it's wide enough as a regular residential where 43 is normally a larger road. We can't require him to put the full 4,300 due to the fact that his one subdivision impact does not.
So it's not a half street.
It's technically not a
It's
half
just a
street.
smaller
It's
than the
just a
right of way.
smaller version.
Will it still have the same width at the time, but just only have
The
asphalted?
finished road. will
He's
be-
dedicating his, so how can I?
There's a lot of streets where the subdivision, you put curb and gutter and put asphalt, and then the rest is just,
The rest is dirt, is that?
yeah, I mean, it happens.
So if you look at Deer Crest, the other owner owns clear up to 4,300. He couldn't put the road on that half. So with this side, he can put it up to where the property is and he's dedicating that portion and he's putting that road in.
And it's wide enough
And
to
it's wide
qualify
enough,
as a real
yes.
road. Okay,
Gotcha.
that's the key part.
It's
Okay,
just,
that's
and
why I
that's,
asked the
it's
question.
engineered, it will be taken care of. Dana does look at that and because it is 4,300.
I'm sorry, we're not taking this is not a public hearing. Sorry. Okay. Go ahead.
So I'm just curious what, maybe somebody can inform me what that does to the integrity of the road as far as when the other half comes in. Does that affect it at all? Only having it at half asphalted when somebody else comes into it? I'm just wondering. I know
When
that
the-
sounded
That was pretty
terrible.
good, Sarah.
It's a good
Half
question.
asphalted. Asphalted.
It's a good question. When that other side does
What,
end
you
up
gonna
coming
slip?
in and developing, we will look at that and hopefully by then Skyline will either be put in or we can have it corrected so it will be a finished, complete
The
road.
nice thing about that, that's the downhill slope. So, I mean, it's the south side. So to keep the water running and that should be better than if it was on the north side, then there'd be more runoff that way. So, so I agree with that. I mean, I think it's done all over. Wish it could all be done at one time. If Carson was a really good guy, he would just go ahead and do it, I guess. but- Hey,
I
we
think the city was already planning on doing that. If I'm
And
not
there's no protection strip or anything proposed on this, right?
No.
Okay, good, because I would deny it if it was.
Mayor,
So
Mayor.
Go ahead,
I
Steve,
would
and
just,
then Kevin.
since Tyson's back, I know that we fenced the spring and we've expanded out, our protection zone. Does this meet with your approval then? I mean, the slope and things going away, I can understand, if we dump in oil or something that could get into the groundwater that spoils our protection zone. But I just, to say we can't have any pesticides or, things like that, I don't know how we're going to monitor that. So how are we going to? Do you feel good with how it's presented? Okay, that's all I need to know.
I think Kevin had a question, but I have one after that.
Kevin?
what are the red lines that are, what are they? What do they consist of? There's a note about some conditions that are red.
There are red lines. It's just minor details on the plans. It's really nothing large. If you want, I can go get them.
No, I just didn't want to have some
No,
major,
you're- No,
major
if it
red
was,
line.
honestly, if it was major and it was a very big deal that we wanted to have it worded out in the conditions, I would definitely put them on there. I promise.
Okay, Sarah? Or was it Dave?
Yeah, another question for Tyson. Do we have a drawing that shows that protection zone all around the whole well or whole spring? Yeah, just we're showing it here on these lots, what the protection zone is, but it goes above 4,300 is what I'm kind of guessing here. Does it go on the opposite side or is it just because of the way this is way the slope is here? If it's to the west, I'm someone. Yeah, I'm just wondering why we don't, if it's a protection zone,
Well,
why we don't fence it.
Well,
Why-
we
why
did.
would-
We
a
did.
metal-
It
Mayor,
is.
Mayor, if I can make a comment.
ahead.
So a couple years ago, we did expand that zone by the spring. And we did fence the area so that it was an actual fenced area. And this is just another, as it goes out, it gets less and less and less problematic, obviously, but the fenced area is a defined area that feeds that spring.
Right.
And Tyson, I mean, he went and did a lot of work on that spring to actually find the source. And so that was discussed by the fenced location. So this just goes.
Just something we can't enforce, but. it
Just
goes
just
beyond
wants to go a little extra. We want to be
Sorry.
careful with, and I think that's really where it goes.
Yeah.
That's why I asked Tyson if he agrees, then I have no problems with it.
Yeah, it's most areas, it's not feasible to block out everything. If you could, most would, but there's wells, just like the one we're taking out of Weaver Basin that's in the middle of the residential and ag. So they would have their source protection and their allowable uses inside those zones. Your no zone is absolutely within that 100-foot, which is well inside that fenced off area. And then you branch out to a zone 2 that's nowhere near these as well. It's those are your critical zones, and they're well inside the center of that. So this would be zone 3, and then further up the hillside, somewhere up in the 4,300 ranch area, it turns into zone 4, which would have lesser restrictions, but all those will end up on our source protection plan and their notice and what you have to look out for. So we, with the development around them earlier, we've already increased our sampling rotation. So we went from a 3-year herb and pesticide to a 1-year. So we sample every year at Little Mo for herb and pesticide. You'll monitor those levels, and if you start to see a significant increase, then you would go to those hazard identified in your protection plan. That would be how you would monitor.
And these conditions, Tyson, are these conditions outlined in the conditions on, for those
Standard.
lots, like if I bought lot, whatever it is?
Correct.
35, okay, all right.
Yes.
I'll make a motion that we approve. I forgot. Harris Fields Phase 5 preliminary subdivision as outlined with the conditions noted.
Second.
Motion by Bailey, second by Gibson.
Wasn't that phase 3?
Phase 5.
Is
Phase
5?
five.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 4. Oh, you guys didn't even want to have this meeting this month. Okay. Public hearing, discussion, possible action to consider a rezone request from RE20 to RE15 on property located at 344 West Pleasant View Drive, parcel 17,058,0011, ordinance 2021-5. Jill.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay. So the location is just off of Pleasant View Drive. It's just west of Lowman View Nursery. Hopefully you were able to go through your packet, and if you want to hit next, you can see where on the left is the current zoning. It is currently RE20.
Yeah.
Can I stop you for a moment?
I'll make a motion. We go into a public hearing.
Do that. I'll
Second,
that.
yeah.
A motion by Bailey, second by whoever, Yuri. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, now continue.
Now go.
Okay, so you can see on the left, the current zoning is RE20. And on the right is the general plan. The general plan shows for 2 to 3 units per acre, which means half to a third acre lots. If you want to hit next again, this is the layout or the concept plan of what they want to do. She did tell us in our planning commission meeting that the layout has changed a little bit. The lot that would be sitting on 325 and Pleasant View Drive do come closer. I do not have an updated plan. So it does meet the general plan. However, legislative items, it is up to you guys to feel if now's the right time or not. It does meet all the requirements for the general plan. I did look, it is not technically spot zoning because the idea is to subdivide. That is the one key piece. That's why it's not considered spot zoning. So other than that, it meets the general plan. Therefore, that's why staff recommended approval, because it meets the general plan. But we know it's up to you guys.
Do you know when it changed to RE 15? Because it was
With
RE
the
20.
request.
Oh,
The
well,
request is
for
to
just for
RE
this
15.
parcel, but the zoning around it, it was not RE 15.
Everything around it is currently, you want to hit the back one? So on the left, you can see all the yellow is RE 20. So right where that red outline is, it's just her lot.
Okay.
And she
So-
wants that lot to be RE.
So why do you say the general plan calls for 1 to 3? Because that
Allows
is-
for.
allows
Allows
for,
for 2 to 3.
So you can
So
have
that-
it either.
but if it's zoned RE 20, that is not third acre lots in an RE 20 zone. RE
So-
15, the other subdivision down the road is, but
Yes.
how is that a part of the master?
Just saying
plan?
that the general plan allows
Allows.
it.
Or.
Either or, 2 or 3. It's up to us to
It's
determine
up to you guys.
that's appropriate.
Okay.
So I believe anything, the general plan was basically
Yeah,
below the,
I was confusing the current zoning with the general plan. So that's,
Close in the same color. It's close to the same.
yeah,
color.
no, I
So it's
understand what they're
built
doing now.
completely.
I'm colorblind anyway, so that doesn't help me at all.
I'm confused on the next slide. Can I ask a question about that? So does the house currently sit in the bulk of that,
Yes. So
in the middle?
let me grab my.
this is obviously not somebody to prove, but. I mean, that's-
Okay. So here's the house. And so this area would remain one lot. She's wanting to have this pool house, have an addition, so it would be a home. And then this would be a 1/3 acre. This would be a 1/3 acre. And according to what she stated in our planning commission meeting, these two would be closer together and this would no longer be there.
And so how do you access the top 1/3 acre? How do you?
There is a road, this is 3100.
Okay.
It's, I believe, stopped, correct me if I'm wrong, isn't it? The road stopped right about there. So when they do come in for that subdivision portion, they would have to
Develop the road.
complete the rest of the infrastructure that would be required.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a question, Jill. So how does, you say it's not a spot zone because she's gonna subdivide, but, and maybe this comes later with the subdivision plan to meet the medium density. There are certain requirements that need to be accomplished and I don't know how they're gonna be accomplished. And I guess that's up to them to prove, not us, but.
Right.
So any discussion on that, or is it just to be?
I've talked to her, this is what she wants. The layout's not necessarily what we would recommend, but we just have to look to make sure that it.
Yeah, we would not be
the
approving this.
rezone
That's just a
requirements, and
concept, but.
that's- Yeah,
And so to come in for an actual a preliminary or whatever, she'd have to meet those
correct.
medium density requirements. She'd have to come in with a plan that's acceptable to the city, which I've already met and expressed my concern, especially about that driveway there onto Pleasant View Drive. Anyway,
I'd like to make a comment.
go ahead, Ann.
Since the whole entire, go back a frame, everything around it is 1/2 acre or RE 20. For me personally, since it's surrounded by RE 20, I'll be voting no for the RE 15. That's my opinion.
I'd like to make a comment. If I
Go ahead.
could. I was at the planning commission and the planning commission chair and vice chair also expressed some of the same reservations and voted against the rezone because, again, this is just the rezone, but they had some serious concerns. Then the character and the nature, everything was half acres. And why would you do that right there? And so they had a good discussion, but I'm with Ann, it doesn't fit the character and nature of that area.
Yeah, I know you say it's not spot zoning technically.
Right.
Okay, it's technically not spot zoning, but if you think about it realistically,
Mhm.
it sure looks like
It
spot
is.
zone to me. Any members of the public wish to address us? We are in a public hearing still. Okay, seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
A motion by Bailey, second by Gibson. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, council, it's up to you. You have a
I'd like to
motion?
make a motion that we deny the rezone request from RE 20 to RE 15 on this property located on 344 West Pleasant View Drive, parcel 17-058-0011.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, motion by Arrington, second by Erie to deny. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 5, discussion and possible action to approve Pleasant View Landing final subdivision for 23 lots located at approximately 3350 North Casey Lane. Requester RW Custom. Jill.
Glad mine's all in one shot, hopefully. Okay. So RW Custom, will you want to?
Yes, sorry.
You're fine. I just have two more, this one and one more after this. Yep. So the location is just off of 1000. They came to, they're coming to you for their final on the subdivision, which means they're wanting to record. You did get a copy of the escrow. It's in the packet. I did verify it is posted. It is a legit account. So the only conditions that we have, and this would just be for, just before we record, would be one of the two items. Either get an easement for the utility lines that are stubbed to the north, or if they aren't able to do that, they would have to pull the lines back to the south side of the canal. The reason why we have to have that before we record is so that way we know where the lines are. If it is on the north side, we have that easement and it's protected. If not, we know where the lines are. And then it looks, after research, we did notice that one parcel just didn't have the taxes paid, so that would be the other piece.
Can I borrow your laser pointer? And can you put this up?
Yep, go to the next one.
You have a question before I present?
No, go ahead. You'll probably answer what I was gonna ask.
Maybe. What do I push? Okay, there we go.
Green
Okay,
light.
I personally have a couple of concerns here that I'd like to bring to the council and see if we can't. I mean, they're asking for a final here. There are some problems with the property up here that we've been trying to work out. I think we have a solution. If you see this plat here, they're talking about dedicating this remainder of parcel B, which is where a temporary turnaround is, to the city. I would make the suggestion that we do not do that. Our standards say that this should be contained within the subdivision and maintained by the developer. It's supposed to be paved within 12 months. I would give them the 12 months to pave it. Because I believe they're working with this property owner, and he's here today, to change this to be the temporary turnaround and then sell or trade or do whatever they work out with that remainder parcel to them. that will allow, because this road is master planned or planned to come up here and go along the canal behind, I think you own to the canal and the Erickson zone.
That's in the master plan, that road is. or-
Well,
That's the idea, so that way there, it does not,
it
does
doesn't
not
landlock
Those
these
property
people right,
owners to the
well,
north.
wherever those people are.
Behind
Here?
that.
Are you, is this you?
No, that's the one that would be landlocked.
This one?
Mhm.
Yeah, okay.
So this would help all.
Yeah, so there's some property, anyway, we had a meeting with all these property owners. And I think we about got a solution here. The problem becomes if this is dedicated to the city. Okay. There's no guarantee that, because we have to follow certain guidelines of what we do and how we dispose of that property. Okay, basically the highest bidder. So we can't just work it out. However, our standards do specify that it's supposed to be maintained or contained within the development and maintained as a temporary turnaround. It has to be asphalted if it's going to be a temporary turnaround that lasts more than 12 months, which if they can't get it worked out with this property owner and something and a new temporary turnaround put in here, then we'd ask them to asphalt it, but we'd give them basically a year to get that problem resolved.
So
So I'm saying we can approve that, but I would not take this as, I would not recommend us
Contingent on or omit, or what would you?
which is the button?
that they may, that
The green
they
button.
keep that parcel B.
Is
as
that
part
going to
of the-
function as a turnaround then, Mayor? I mean, it doesn't really feel like a good area to,
Yeah, it meets the
it
requirements.
does meet the requirements to.
So Mayor, can I ask a
You
question?
betcha,
So this is parcel B.
right?
Right now, that's where the planned temporary turnaround is, right?
Correct.
And is what you're saying is that we would give RW approval for their subdivision, final approval for the subdivision, and give them 1 year to work out the details, because as I understood it, there could possibly be a land exchange for the temporary turnaround up here
Correct.
on this landowner's property,
Mhm.
which would be right here. So it would give us the ability, as I understand it, to make this road turn however it needs to turn, but still give this property owner access to his land through parcel B. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Or
but-
do we just omit the land, the dedication to the city and then? that
Well,
goes
then RW and the landowners can work it out. If
Yeah.
we have it, it ties our hands, how
So
we
just
just,
omit
yeah,
the dedication to the
Yeah.
city.
yes. And
Yeah.
it's perfectly allowed within our ordinances to do that. I don't, we can't, we obviously can't, and don't want to hold up. It's no longer called
Right.
Lindy's Loft, but
Pleasant View Landing.
Pleasant View Landing.
Sorry, that's a very clear, large.
But I
shot
believe,
That hasn't changed.
I believe by doing that, it allows not only RW the flexibility, we still get our temporary turnaround. It can be road base until, but if it's going to be beyond a year, then it will need to be paved. Gives them basically a year to get the new one in.
And it meets all of our standards and all
Hmm.
that. so.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll make a motion, Mayor, if that's okay. I make a motion that we approve Pleasant View Landing final subdivision conditional upon R&W construction, working out the details of the temporary turnaround as has been discussed.
Okay.
Is that clear?
Did you omit?
So no,
I mean, they don't have to solve it. They got a year.
Right.
they
It's
got a
either
year to
perpen-
solve
They
this.
keep it. They don't dedicate it to
Right.
us.
I just need to know about the easement and the utility.
Okay.
That
I
one. That's,
bel-
other than
So
that,
Okay, so we got an easement. I
I-
will ask Mr. Gibby about the easement. He's the property owner that's got to grant that easement.
I think
No, I called on you, so. Please do identify yourself for the record.
My name is Stuart Gibby and I'm a Pleasant View resident. Thank you for calling upon me, Mayor. Call. To answer your question, yes, I'd be willing to work with RW on granting them the easement, as long as we can work out the details that you already delineated previously.
Okay, so if not, they'll have to pull it back. So I don't know when you're going to record or when they want to record. It's up to I understand that. That's on RW. So they'll either need to pull it back or get it, the easement with.
Get the
Mr.
easement.
Gibby.
And we have met, I met with RW, and I believe one of the representatives at least is here. Mr. Flint is here as well. We've discussed the details of this plan. RW is willing to move forward, and I am, as the landowner, willing to grant that easement.
Okay.
Provided that
Yeah, they'll just need to, I mean, they'll need to satisfy one of those before we record. They'll need to know that.
And I think we're willing to accept a stipulation that this happens within 12 months, and if not, then you can go back to this plan. I think for all parties involved, that will be better. And, Mr. Gibson also said it doesn't make sense to have a turnaround here. I think the turnaround is a lot better on my property than it is right here.
Okay. Yeah,
It's at the end of the street then.
well, and that's where it's actually planned to go, whether it ever happens or not.
That's why I wondered
that's
if
the
that
tough
needs to
one.
be on a drawing somewhere. Because I don't know that I've not seen it in master plan, but I
don't know if it's one of those things that's not necessarily master plan, but in order to not landlock anybody.
right,
as
it needs to be
areas
there.
develop.
I totally agree with that, but I just wondered if it
So what's the
should be defined.
The motion is that we approve Pleasant View Landings final subdivision as outlined with the condition that R&W acquire an easement from Mr. Gibby and or pull back the improvements on the other side of the canal if they can't work out an agreement. And they would have 1 year to work that agreement, that 1 year before they needed to pave the turnaround, regardless of where it is.
Do we have to omit that piece of property too? from the
And they
dedication?
will not dedicate that to the
Not
city.
dedicate parcel B to the city.
And did we have a second? I'm sorry.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, motion by Bailey, second by Marriott. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, hopefully these items we can plow through, so we can get Amy home. Thank you for being here, Amy.
Oh, you're
Appreciate
so
it.
welcome.
Holy cow, we have a whole other page.
Yeah. Item 6 of 16, public hearing, discussion, possible action, consider a text change to the mixed use west zone regarding a verbiage change to extend the location of the MUW area, mixed use west area, ordinance 2021-6. I'd entertain a motion to go into a public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Bailey, second by Arrington. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we're in a public hearing. Jill.
Okay, so this was brought to me to look at possible changes to the zone. And the idea is to kind of open some possibilities on the Fleming property. As development tries to come through, we're trying to look at all options. So the corrections or the changes that are being proposed right now would be to change the verbiage from just having everything from 89 to our west border, north of 2700, be allowed to be the MU West, mixed use west, but also to change it to allow the parcels along, and we've listed those. You got that in the packet with the ordinance, so it specifically lists those parcels, which you can see the picture below, to that ordinance. The idea is to, again, open that parcel up to some possible development that might come through. We did have a resident make a comment, and it's a valid comment. There was a concern of previous development along 89, where it was proposed mixed use and it ended up being high density the whole way through. So
Yeah, I'm wondering, is it possible, as since we're making a text change to this particular zone, and I'm sorry, this just popped in my mind right now, is it possible that in the same ordinance that we specify that a development agreement is required I agree. I believe Tony's the one that made,
Yes.
and he's here if he wants to comment, but it is a public hearing. I agree. The city's been burnt, and every developer I've talked to about this zone is you will not get this zone unless it's tied to a development agreement that calls for because they come in with a commercial plan
then
and
the
residential, and they build the residential, and we got many examples of where we got vacant ground that's supposed to have commercial.
Mhm.
And I don't know if we want to send this back and have something added to it, if we want to approve it like this is and bring it back to us again.
I think that would be a great idea.
Because I
you
think
guys are
we
willing to
need some,
Give us
if
a
we're
little
gonna,
bit more
if
time.
we're gonna apply this zone, we need to make sure this zone is applied the way we want it applied. So I agree.
Mayor, when you
Go
and I
ahead.
talked about it, if that's okay, the same, I agree that, that we table this and talk about the text changes with including the development agreement and specifying that commercial must be, and then reduce it to percentages of what's allowed on the property for the high density, talking percentages, not, and what that looks like too.
And we can,
Steve had a comment.
Well, I echo 100% agreement with that, Mayor. We've been burned. And that's why we changed it to begin with, and to go backwards, it just doesn't feel right, and I don't want to be burned again. We want commercial development.
Correct.
We want some mixed use stuff in some areas, but man, if we change it and open it up again, we're gonna have a
Gotta be
station
very
again. So,
careful.
Mayor, I would make, if there's more comment, but I
We're
guess we
still in
can't-
the
I guess
public
we
hearing
can't,
part,
right.
so.
But yeah,
And-
Mayor, I agree 100%. Thank you for the
Any
comment.
members of the public that wish to make a statement? We're good. He's good with what we talked about. Anybody else? If not, I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearings.
I'll make that motion.
Second that one.
Okay, motion by Marion, second by Yuri. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. Council, what's your pleasure? We'll just table this, or do you want to?
Let's
I'd like to
table
make
it.
a motion to I'd like to make a motion to table this to allow staff some time to draft the verbiage and language, including a development agreement that specifies commercial first and, how that would be developed. So
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion by Yuri, second by Gibson. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, item 6. Presentation on fiber optics and possible action to consider pursuing an interlocal agreement and setting open house dates for the public. Casey or Gary, or who's presenting? Both of you? All righty, awesome.
Guys, thanks for hanging out.
I'd like,
here.
yeah, sorry.
Seriously.
You're gonna do it quick, right?
Well, technology has evolved about 3 steps.
Yeah. Good point. Good point. All right. Just as way of introduction, Casey and Gary have been some citizens that we've brought on that are very knowledgeable in this field. That being fiber, not necessarily the ISP and that type of stuff, even though they do have some knowledge there, but who has served on this committee with Ann, that Ann's been sharing and have
And
been-
Dave. And
and
Dave.
have been,
And Dave.
yeah.
And Dave.
And Dave, no. And it's been very well functioning, and we really appreciate YouTube and the time you've spent and what you've contributed. So now I'll turn it over to you. Take it.
Well, so basically, just to recap what we've done so far. Is what?
Just step through.
Oh, yeah. So we formed the committee. I was called by Ann to be on it, and this is Dave and
Casey.
Casey.
Casey, sorry. I crossed his.
Well, you look at that.
We should probably introduce them, actually, because
Yeah.
Ann and I kind of handpicked
Okay, go ahead.
both of them. We were looking for people to be on a committee, and I had a list of a lot of names, and Casey came across mine, and I called him and just talked to him about his feelings about some of this. And Casey is impressive in the fact that he studies things out, and he's in the things that he's done and done a great job. But
Which one's Casey?
Casey's on the right. So
He's
Casey
the-
Whiteley.
So they're the important one here.
Yes.
Oh, Gary.
So, because Ann chose Gary, she'll talk about Gary for a second, but I was very impressed with the questions he asked immediately. And after we've had him on the committee, we've learned his background and his skills are very conducive to this committee. And so I'm really glad to have him there.
Yeah, and Gary, I noticed he filled out a comment on the questionnaire, the resident questionnaire part and comments, and I could tell that he knew what was going on. And so I approached him one day in the neighborhood and asked him a few questions, and he was asking me such technical questions that I said, we need you. And these two gentlemen have been such a resource and just given us the jump start we needed in those gaps where we were not that technologically savvy. So thank you so much for your time, you guys, and your expertise. We're so grateful to you.
I think it stems because we're both Pleasant View residents and we're passionate about wanting the best for our community.
And seeing 25 more years of not meeting this needs.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. All right. Go ahead.
Oh,
Keep going.
sorry, that's your.
So go ahead.
So I just say, start here. Why do we need this infrastructure? The survey went out. The survey
Sorry,
was-
Casey, can you get a little closer to the mic? Yeah, sorry.
I'll stand
Thank
over
you.
here. The survey was put out. Over 23% of the citizens responded, which is a very high level of response. And the majority of that, which you'll see in just a moment, was extremely positive towards needing a change in the city. Our private internet throughout the city is very sporadic. Private industry has chosen to only go into areas where it is profitable to them. And then they've discontinued service and not extended it into older areas or more lessly dense areas. Through the last year, we've had a pandemic, which has put a new strain on infrastructure, that being education and online learning. There's one provider in the city that calls high-speed internet 1.5 megabits, and they'll sell it to you for close to $100 a month. You can't stream Netflix on 1.5 megabits. You cannot watch a Zoom meeting with church. You cannot attend your school classes on that. And until a year ago, that was my only option due to over-the-air services that are being competed against by multiple providers. And those frequencies are overlapping each other and causing problems for those users. Post-COVID, we have moved to a completely new hybrid workforce. Many companies are allowing their employees to work from other areas. What has that done in the IT industry for us is, I mean, we've got 2.9% unemployment rate in the state of Utah now, and IT is even lower than that. And these are the people that are really using these services. They're also highly paid. There are cities in America that are now paying to bring those people out of Silicon Valley into Kansas and paying a resident $20,000 to relocate because they know that they can get that tax dollar revenue out of them over time. But they can work, instead of in Silicon Valley, they can work there. There's a ton of economic development. I'm the CIO, CTO for Rocky Mountain Care. We are a skilled nursing assisted living company, mostly focused in Utah, but we do span multiple states. When we go in and look for an area to put a new assisted living, we look at what our capabilities are within that location. Most recently, we put a building in Heber City. I got 3 bids up there to bring internet to that location, anywhere from $20,000 to $40,000 to extend a cable to that location. And I had a third that said, we want to be part of the community, and they installed it. Before I even knew it, they talked to the general on site and extended it onto the facility and charged us nothing to do it. So the economic development, my say on that is that businesses are looking for what those capabilities are from the cities. There's a ton of items under smart city initiatives. Right now, we're not going into that, but I wanted to make sure that everybody is aware of it. Your water meters that can go digital, traffic safety, the ability to put cameras throughout the cities. We even talked about some of the technologies that can be used in the police side of it, where they can detect a gunshot and triangulate it within meters anywhere in the city within seconds.
Can you slow cars down?
With the gunshot, yes. Public Wi-Fi, being able to, internet still isn't free. And I still know a lot of people with cell phones that get on very limited plans because the cost of unlimited internet is expensive. The ability to put public Wi-Fi into our facilities, our parks, public areas is also an option. That list goes on and on, but those are just capabilities that the fiber infrastructure brings to the city.
So talking a little bit about, have you guys had a chance to review the, when I was brought on board, I was a little bit of a skeptic. I'll admit, I love the idea, but over, my tenure, and I'll get to that in a second, I watched Utopia unfold and fail and then not fail and then get resurrected and then move along and then flourish and whatnot. But it was after I read the survey results that it became clear that Pleasant View, maybe go to the next, what is the next? Yeah, so this is me. So really quick, my background is I worked for Sonic Cable in Logan, Utah after my Utah State stint. I then was hired by Charter Communications and in the course of a year and a half became TCI Cablevision, AT&T, and then Comcast. And then I went to work on the East Coast for Charter Communications and deployed cable modem service and advanced cable products, digital cable and whatnot. So through that, I kept a very close eye on the fiber world, what was happening. And while the thought of 1 gig internet up and down made my, just tingle, I knew that it was conceptually could be flawed. It wasn't just going to be easy and be a perfect world. Well, that being said, in the industry that, that I'm in, we lived in North Ogden. We had Comcast and, getting fairly decent speeds. My wife really wanted to move to Pleasant View, I was looking everywhere but Pleasant View, no offense, but I just didn't know.
But now that you're here.
But now that I'm here, we love it. I'm so glad that she went. However, we found our nice little development down in Fox Meadows. And before we moved there, I said, okay, we've got to find out what's available to us. Because of the industry I work in and everything, I have to have internet. It's a necessity. It's no longer a luxury. It's a utility. And to what was said, about COVID and education and all that, I think everybody's realizing it has to be there. Anyway, went down to our neighborhood and saw that they were pulling conduit, and talked to a person that said, yeah, that's CenturyLink, and CenturyLink's pulling fiber. I went, okay, you want to move to Pleasant View? We're moving to Pleasant View. Well, it turns out that was the new road of Fox Meadows. I was moving into the old road that's next to the model home that's been there for 6 years. It's a whole other question. The longest model home in history of the planet, but I'm right there. They did not have any conduit fiber. Comcast was not in that area, and I discovered this. I needed to ask, my bad, those questions before we were as far down the building process as we did. Well, our options became clear. It was a wireless ISP, and those in the area at the time there were two. Without going into names, I don't know, can I mention names? No, okay, we won't mention names, but there was one that got bought by somebody else, and on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, after fighting with their service, I was told, we had another outage, And I called and I said, I just went down, I'm out. I need to be back up. I've got a giant project and it's the Wednesday before the Thanksgiving holiday. I need to be back up. And they said, oh yeah, well, our techs are off. We'll be back next Tuesday and we can look at getting you back online. And I said, sorry, I can't. And I hung up the phone. I picked up the other option. The only other option that I had available to me was the other wireless ISP in the area. And called him and said, this is what I'm facing. What can you do for me? He says, I'll come and saw you this afternoon. I said, great. That sounds great. After working with them for not very long, I discovered they had much the same limitations. And a lot of it is conflicting frequencies. There's only so much licensed radio spectrum that these wireless ISPs can use. And when one points their dish across a bank of houses at their tower, they knock out about 3 houses. They're running on another frequency that's on the other company. And so it's a constant battle of calling them and say, hey, I'm not working. They fix you, then they whatnot. But we had no other options. And I came home and I said, we're going to move. We have to move. And it was, we'd only been in the house about 2 years, and my wife's heart was broken. And I said, but we have to. I can't, make my living and do what I do in this environment. We're gonna move. And Bishop in the neighborhood said, Gary, just hang on. Word is that Vivint's coming to town, and they're a lot better. So okay, great. Well, turned out they were a lot better. And they are now out of business. They decided to go back to just home security. So we were left with nothing again. And turns out there was a certain cable provider who shall remain nameless who decided to build our street the day that we were calling the realtor. So we're still here. But I currently pay $100 a month for internet. And to boil it all down succinctly, everybody, I can't think of a single person I know that doesn't have internet in this world. Even my parents who are almost 80, they have internet. And the reality of it is as we pointed out, that people in Pleasant View are paying premium rates for mediocre service. And a lot of that is from drawing back on my cable days. It's an aging infrastructure. It's just not there. What cable was initially put in the ground for doesn't work today. My dryer is connected to the internet. My fridge is connected to the internet. My freezer is. So if it goes down, I get an alert saying, hey, you may want to check your meat. My temperature just went up to, +4. You're supposed to be at -10. Or as simple as loading the dryers done, get in here so you don't have to iron your shirts. But with that demand comes to a point where 1 megabit doesn't cut it. 5 megabits doesn't cut it anymore. When I put internet into Suffolk, Virginia, we put in a pipe to feed the city that was a DS3 that we were using 6 megabits out of a 45 megabit pipe. And we thought we were in heaven. I get, 3 times that at my house now. Exactly. And so the demand is there, the need is there. The question is how to do it without bankrupting anybody or giving 100% control and power to a single entity that ties your hands, because by nature of it, it's expensive. And once you allow one company, whether that's the model works, whether you're a Comcast or a CenturyLink or whatever, once somebody is in and has their foothold in, no other competition can come in because it's not equitable. There's no way they can compete. Even in the cable world, there was a term called overbuild, where if a cable system was established, cable companies don't come in and overbuild another cable company just because there's no way they can afford to do that. And so allowing, someone to ultimately singly control that infrastructure, that utility is shaky ground. You have to be very, very careful. So I kind of spouted a little bit. If you wanted to go on to the next one. So what we have learned in all of this is in talking to many different fiber providers, talking with, exploring what options were out there. And I learned about some more that I had realized were in the game. We discovered this hybrid model, which basically is a public infrastructure partnered with private entity as the ISP side of it. So basically these ISPs, internet service providers, those providing the actual internet bandwidth, ride on an infrastructure that the city owns and controls and maintains. And when you control it, that means you can be fair to all the residents in your community, meaning and this is why government works where it does is, in private business, I like to say there's an axiom that money trumps everything. And they go to the hotspots and where it's affordable. And it makes sense, they're in business to do business. And if they can only lose money for so long and then they're on to the next. But if you're methodical and you're smart about it, there's a much better way to go about doing it. And anyway, so these are some of the highlights that we have learned, making it equally available to all the residents of Pleasant View, and future-proofing the bandwidth capabilities, being able to control the installation of that infrastructure so you minimize the impact of what a private company would do to the streets and the easements and people's yards and tearing it up. That's, I hate to say it, but from my cable experiences, it's really important because you can get a black eye really fast, having somebody bore through people's yards. And so that really is a important piece of it. But we're looking, we've learned about a public pricing model that is comparable to basically any service provider that's out there now. So we're looking at giving a service to the citizens immensely greater than what is available at competitive or lesser price than what you can go pay ISP for now. And between all of us and Ann and everybody, we've put in 270 plus hours of research on this project. We had a team that actually drove out to Roosevelt to look at installation processes and procedures
And I would say that, we don't expect those hours to go down. We're going to continue to grow that, and this is where we want to bring up our next steps. We would like to, at that point, extend this project to pull together a list of qualifications of what these vendors, what we would require of these vendors to service the city. We would define our citywide technology requirements, how they would service the entire city, the amount of time that they would take to deploy it, the technologies that they would use, their uptimes, we call SLAs, their agreements, and that no citizen is left without unless they choose to opt out, which we would have to have a process for that. We've also learned and want to pursue an interlocal agreement. This is where multiple cities can agree on terms that we can then use to leverage funding opportunities via grants or bonding or purchase power outside of this. It requires two cities to do. We have engaged with, we did bring in North Ogden to many of our meetings, whether or not they're interested to go forward with that at some time. But there are other cities that are currently at the same place that we are in looking at this. We would also then, once we have put out the RFQ and gotten information back be able to then provide open houses through the latter half of 2021 in order to bring the community together, allowing them to learn what we have found and get their ideas at that time as far as how we want to move forward. I'll now turn it back over to the committee.
Thank you so much, you guys. Amy, do you have any comments that you want to add to that?
Just mainly really appreciate the resident participation in this. I know there's a lot of time commitment on your end with not being, formally part of the organization, and really appreciate you guys hanging out tonight and making that presentation and bringing your knowledge to the table, because to Ann's point, some of the technical jargon, it gets a little bit overwhelming.
So Mayor, if we can, the committee has a recommendation and a request of the council, if you would mind me just presenting that.
Sure, go ahead.
So we're asking as a committee that the council approve us going out for some RFQs, requests for qualifications, to see what companies can fit the parameters, and bring that back to the council for a decision. And the committee will review that as well to make sure that fits within the parameters that we have found to be equitable and good for the city. Also, we're requesting that we can but just create an interlocal agreement that you can look at. You will still approve the interlocal agreement, but are you okay if we go and create that and bring it to you for approval? So those are our two asks for tonight.
Okay, and the open house date, you want to do that at a later time then, or?
And I think
I
that,
think that's something we can just work together as a committee.
yeah,
Yeah.
those are the two most pressing right now.
Okay.
And again, those will all come back before we make decisions, but that's where we need to go next.
I have a question, Mayor. Can you give, just for reference sake, what are some of the list, or maybe you have the list already formed of the qualifications that you're looking for? Is that something that you can disclose at this time?
I mean, we can, they're quite technical. I don't know that they would.
Maybe it'd be
Well,
best
it
to
was kind of in one
disseminate
of the
that
slides.
and have it at the next. I mean, we can go ahead with it and put it together. And
Right.
get it. to
And run
the-
it
Just
by
for
you.
reference sake, for, it's a public, so.
To give you just a quick reference, our thought as we were coming up would be that we would offer 250 meg synchronous, which is up and down, that would be a base plan, a plan. Up to 1 gig by 1 gig is a second plan. We want to limit the plan options so that we aren't trying to order from one of these vendors, one of 700 different plans. There would be a base plan that would be part of the utility, which would be enough for a very basic standard Netflix feed or a very basic Zoom single feed for a home as part of the utility plan. Those are the kind of three things that we're looking for. We're also looking for vendors that can make very little impact to our roads and into our homes with the latest and greatest technologies. We looked over what's called micro trenching, which is a 1.5 inch trench down every road, 16 inches deep, and they can do miles within a day in latest cable. They are doing directional boring, which I do know because of public Facebook has been a issue with some current utilities, but people that are in those public easements at this point causing problems. We want to make sure we don't have that.
Yeah,
And then there will be a separate one much down the road for the ISPs. We're going to want to set some standards. We want as many ISPs as we can. We want competition. We want anybody to have the service they want, but there will be some things they'll have to meet in order to be a
Minimum standards and equal competition.
But that's
right?
down the road. She's just asking for this now. And so, pardon?
Mandatory service for all the citizens.
We haven't decided that yet.
No,
So it's just, you're asking just for a request.
the quote qualification.
And to pursue the interlocal agreement.
Okay. Is that a motion then, or?
I can make it a formal motion. I'd like to make a motion that we pursue RFQs regarding fiber and also an interlocal agreement that we will bring back to the council.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, motion by Arrington, second by Bailey. Further discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Item 8, discussion and possible action to consider amending the consolidated fee schedule for fee increases in garbage, recycling and sewer resolution 2021-E. Laurie,
In the resolution, I think
thank
I
you.
pretty well spelled
Thanks for your
everything out.
patience.
Thanks, you guys.
He's out of here. See you. We were going.
Okay. Yeah, the resolution, I think, kind of spells everything out. So we're suggesting or proposing that we increase the sewer fee and the garbage and recycling fees. The sewer fee is kind of basically a pass along because of the bonding that the Central River Sewer is doing. And that increases $1.80 per user per month. And the garbage can and the recycling is 50 cents each. And I think on the third page, I just kind of gave you our fast budget. It kind of shows you at the very end, we're short maybe on the garbage about 56 cents and the recycling 50. So I rounded both of them down just for convenience. You can kind of see if I round down, we're losing probably a couple thousand a year. So
That's
And they're
What,
just
50
estimates.
cents is rounding down? Is that what you-
rounding
yeah,
down.
Okay.
And they're all estimates, our budget and everything, but that's the
Sure.
proposal is 50 cents on both of those for the first can and even extra cans that they request.
So these are all enterprise funds, which we talked about, making sure that enterprise funds are designed to support themselves and not be subsidized by the general fund. And unfortunately, what we probably had to do is each year look at one of them or something instead of letting them all. But it's been, yeah, this was kind of, and we do, Laurie does, but this has kind of been the perfect storm this year where everything is just not paying for itself. So,
We didn't know about Central Weber Sewer.
yeah,
until we
and
got the
Central
letter
Weber
too.
Sewer, they adjust theirs. That's a whole different story, but yeah, they adjust theirs annually. So they change every year.
Do you need a motion, Mr.
Yeah,
Mayor?
Mayor, can I make a quick comment before you motion? I'm just wondering why we rounded down the 6 cents. I mean, if that's going to cost the city a couple $1,000s.
Well, the budget's kind of estimates anyways, and you kind of hope that we don't expend everything, and we're hoping maybe revenue does come in better than it does. And 2,000's not going to hurt the budget. We do have a fund balance still in it. And we can get adjusted every year. At the end of next year, 47,000. So it keeps going down every year quite a bit. We have in the past actually reduced garbage and recycling fees because our budget was getting too high that we don't need that reserve. So we actually did
Okay.
go down $1 one
So
year.
it's not always going up, up, up. I mean,
No, we have brought this one down just because there's no reason to have a big budget, just only for emergencies.
okay.
So I think we can watch it a year and just make sure.
Did that reserve go down from 2020 to 21 or not
And
2019
you know,
to
it
20?
could, because right now we have a lot of the tipping fees are going up because people
Yeah.
are home still and that, the
Yeah.
tonnage is higher. And so it's just a weird years.
Yeah.
So, and if we find that it's even too much, we can reduce it again next year, or maybe it will hold itself.
It was interesting to see what happened to the tipping fees when the pandemic first hit. It kind of leveled off a little bit, but boy, a year ago, March, April, May, this is like, oh, man. Probably all pizza boxes too. No.
Yeah. So I'm even guessing what the tipping fees
Sure.
are going to be next year. So it's all estimates.
Yeah, we just need to keep, because she makes a good point. If it's too high and we're getting too much money, then we need to lower it. And so we got to always be really,
Lori's really
build.
good
Yeah,
and
she's very good on
conservative.
these enterprise funds to make sure that they're just doing what they're supposed to do. So.
Okay.
Entertain a motion.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we amend the consolidated fee schedule for the fee increases noted in the resolution. Do I need to spell each one
I'll
out?
just say
Or
resolution
just
2021.
Resolution 2021-E as noted in the report.
Okay.
I'll second the motion.
Motion by Yuri, second by Marriott. Roll call vote. Harrington.
Yes.
Bailey.
Yes.
Yuri.
Yes.
Marriott.
Yes.
Gibson. Yes. Okay, motion carries unanimous. Item 9, discussion possible action to approve renew to approve renewing insurance coverage with the Utah Local Governments Trust with the term of July 1st, 2021 to July 1st, 2022 for general liability insurance, property insurance, and auto physical damage. Laurie.
Okay. He sent us a little handout here, just kind of showing what the trust does compared with other insurance companies. I don't know if any of you've looked through them, but they've noticed all these other companies that have actually come to the trust. And the second page actually shows that we're constant on what the fees are and whatnot. compared to other insurance companies, how they're up and down all the time. Our insurance rate, there is no change to our property insurance. There's no change to our auto insurance, and our liability actually went up 3%.
Which was how much money?
61,000. So the total package is the 91,692. So we're just, because it's over the 10,000, we need to ask your approval again to go ahead and pay the premiums for the next fiscal year.
Every year, whether we need it or not. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion, Mayor.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
A motion by Gibson, second by Arrington. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 10, annual discussion with the Pleasant View City Audit Committee. Not sure what that means exactly.
Do you know, the only reason I put this on is because we did that fraud assessment thing last year that the state auditors wanted us to do. So we created this audit committee charter. And in the charter, we're supposed to meet with the city council once a year. This is the last meeting in this year. So we're meeting with you just to see if there's any concerns that you guys have. As when we meet as a committee, do you want us to address anything particularly, or you can bring it up later to us also, but this is just to meet with you, see if you have concerns.
Yeah, so.
It's a check the box.
Yeah, audit committee charter, you can see what is addressed, and if yes, you don't have to wait to a special meeting to, if you know of any fraud or suspect any fraud or have any problems with any of our laws, regulations, or separation of duties or any of that kind of stuff. We always want to be on the up and up and want to make sure. So again, it does check boxes, but the boxes are a good reason to be checked. Any concerns or questions? If not, we'll move on to the next item.
I feel very confident in how things are being handled. I hope I never find anything different.
I agree. Yeah.
I'd like to make a
Great
motion that we
staff.
pass around the halftime snacks now.
No kidding.
Kind of hungry, huh?
What
Kind
about,
of
what
motion.
about,
How
a-
about us some snacks?
what about a
thing, yeah?
motion for a restroom break if anybody needs it? I don't
Let's
know.
do like can we do like a 10-minute or real quick or five?
Let's take a 5-minute break.
Second. Can I
Okay.
skip my own motion?
Back here at 9. Oh my heck, 9-ish. Come get a snack.
I'm leaving the live YouTube on.
Oh.
Just because it's. So.
I know, we gotta get.
Yeah, different flavors. You're cold?
Do you want some crackers? or-
Did everybody get Rulon's
Do you guys want some?
letter? I say you did.
There's different flavors.
Did Rulon give everybody a copy of his letter?
Yes, that was so cute.
And here's a card. I'm gonna pass the card around.
Oh my heck.
It was so cute to have him come over.
Totally finished.
Just-
There,
Oh,
there's
just-
gotta be.
I mean,
more.
will you please give these to the city council?
So cute.
I just- Oh, my gosh.
About what?
Shut up.
No, that's not personal at
I'm just,
all.
I think it's a good choice. I know they're all good, but
So
man,
when I get you, don't take. that
I
personal.
told you, if you ever hear me raise my voice, you know I'm not, you've really made me mad, so.
Just, spread the love around, tell everyone. to shut up. I'm right next to you.
All right, here's where'd the card go?
Let's see 'em.
Look, Kevin and Ann are gonna be on a committee to go over the home occupation ordinance.
Not my favorite.
I'm gonna get another piece of leather though.
We can still do the ordinance. And Sarah and Jill are gonna be on a committee to look at the MUW Because she's got the most concerns of everybody. So good luck. Yeah, after we get, yeah. After we put what we want, we'll send it to him before we bring it here.
Okay, I'm moving. I just wanted to-
He's nice.
Man, I'm gonna chase you down.
You're good?
It's more.
Tyson, apricot, leather?
Great. I'm fine.
Mayor, did you want one of these?
What is it?
It's leather. I know that. Yes.
Counteract the Orioles. I don't do apple. That's my religion.
Just don't take my apricot.
I'm the blue apricot.
Oh, I don't think
That's the
they're
last
gone.
one?
Yeah, I think they're gone. I was spelling them.
Raspberry is actually my favorite.
There's an apricot.
Yours are good. Probably all I know.
Having your wife is too fun. Gonna pass these out now for the closed session. I am in trouble?
Yeah.
I know. I'm a troublemaker though. You knew that. You knew that when you hired me, Kevin. Well, maybe you didn't know this much of a troublemaker, but.
Anybody want some Nutter Butters?
I'll do another butter.
Oh.
I don't want that one.
That wasn't very good. Sorry, Steve.
No, that's all right.
I didn't think I opened it accidentally.
I think he's trying to throw Nutter Butters at you.
I know.
Do you have a
I'm
peanut
gonna work on-
allergy?
I'm gonna work on that.
What is he doing? Do you need another copy of this, baby?
If there's none left, go ahead and take it.
Don't open them and throw them again.
I won't throw them. I'll stop.
Thank you. No, thank you. I want to take my time off for when baby comes home. Thank you. And we went with Samuel. Good name. Solid. I know. Mhm. Yeah, because you told me you have a son named Samuel, right? Oh, it's such a good name. Well, all the Samuels in scriptures are like awesome. But yeah, our little girl, she's not a fan, our 6-year-old. So we were in church and somebody's quoting Samuel from the Bible and she color in her uniform picture. She looks up and she's like, "We're not naming our baby that." Yeah. And so then I did. And she's like, I know. Hey, moms are weird. Yeah, way weird, not normal. Right, when you have your own children, you can name them. But while I'm having mine, I get to.
See any reason why we can't
Thank you so much.
table
Dave,
Sorry.
Contract with.
Well, I took them outside. But
Item 14.
I think, well, the fiber guys took them out there too, so.
Address it at next meeting. We got a lot of stuff in our. Laser, I'd really like to get.
Do you think that's
Amy
gonna,
home.
do you think that's gonna be a big?
I don't know. What do you think? Think it will?
I think it's gonna pass, and I just think if it starts to be a big issue, to start.
Good idea. Thanks, Steve. All righty. Okay, give this back to.
Thank you, Rulon Ashcroft.
Yeah. So nice. I knew this was gonna be a long night.
Hey, if you want more, I'll share.
They're at my
No,
corner.
I threw my apricot
What
one
the
back.
heck? It's like.
I'm sure that little bit of fruit that's in there completely leached out all the sugar I was able to ingest with the Oreos, and I can't have that.
They're delicious. The apricot ones.
Okay.
You want grape?
Item 11, presentation of the fraud risk assessment for Pleasant View fiscal year 2020, 2021. Laurie and
Yes,
Heather,
this is-
that she's here still.
They have not changed this
She
form
is.
from last year. Oh, Heather's here too.
Boy, what a diehard.
Here, I'm gonna. There we go.
There you go.
Now you're on the big screen, Heather. You're welcome.
Is that for the meeting in general or just this item?
Mayor, can I make a comment?
You bet.
So Laura, if nothing's changed, what do we have to do? We have to,
Yeah, nothing has changed.
We
Same
did-
check marks.
we just have to accept then, or
Yeah, we do.
do we have to make a motion?
Let's do.
I think it's just mostly just.
I'll make a motion that we
Accept
you
it.
guys.
that we approve the presentation of the fraud assessment. As nothing's changed, we just go forward.
Okay, motion by Gibson, second by Bailey. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 12, discussion and possible action to consider approving a contract with Gage Arnold for prosecuting services. Me. Oh, I'm presenting
Well,
this.
the reason why you're on there, I'm happy to do it. We didn't know
No,
if I was gonna
can.
be here.
That's fine. Oh,
No, well, you're welcome to present, but yeah, I'm happy to present.
Is this just continuing?
Yep.
He's already been doing it?
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's just a contract extension. We've had really good experiences with
he's
them
been
and
doing a
wanted
really
to
good job.
Mayor,
propose that for you.
I'll make a motion that we approve the contract with Gage Arnold for prosecuting services as nothing has changed.
I'll second the motion.
Motion by Gibson, second by Bailey. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We should have taken a break like an hour ago.
It's the fruit leather.
Item 13, discussion possible action to consider approving the purchase of two CV 515 dump trucks in the amount of $190,000.
At this rate, you should have asked for more, Tyson.
Is this in the budget?
Tyson, is this in the budget?
Yeah,
What was the budgeted amount?
next year,
Next
so the purchase. would
Yeah, what was the
be
budget
Starting
available
July 1.
After July 1,
What
but
was the budget amount?
the 190.
It was 190.
So are they the same
is
price
for the
then?
two.
And you're
That
getting,
price has not changed?
Yeah.
So you're thin budget?
Yes.
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we consider approving the purchase of two dump trucks in the amount of $190,000 as stated in the budget.
I'll second.
the motion.
Thank you.
Want to see the pictures?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Well, you should, it's like, he's like, Laurie, put my stuff at the end of the agenda every time.
It was quick and dirty.
I mean, these are in the budget, right? I mean,
Yes.
We're not doing anything that's.
Yeah, we're eventually gonna look at our purchasing policy to see. 'cause
And
some of
these
this-
are the four-wheel drives and the good trucks that we've got before.
They're really between a 1 ton and the dumps we've been doing. So you basically have $200,000 plow trucks that you're gonna use
Yeah,
17 times a year.
I trust your opinion, Tyson, so you're approved. Thank you.
All right, discussion, item 14, sorry. Discussion and possible action for a 10,000 funding agreement extending for a period of 3 years total with North Ogden Canal Company for city storm water utility outlays. Myself and Councilmember Gibson have had several meetings with the canal company. And if you remember, they came in with a new contract about, oh, it's been almost a year ago, asking us to contribute $15,000 and sign a new contract.
Long-term, yeah.
Long-term contract. Our position and they, you know, we wanted to find out, what do we get for our 15,000? I like the idea, Steve liked the idea of having a set time frame and a set amount, but not changing and not redoing a contract. We like our existing contract that was signed in 1977. I think it keeps us in the driver's seat. This would be for a maximum of 3 years, unless you vote to change that, but we're proposing 3 years at 10,000. We've asked them to provide, we would insist on them providing, especially if they ever want to renew this, documentation on what they're doing, what they're maintaining, what is our money going to. Now, I realize they have an entire canal to maintain and not just Pleasant View, but we talked about, will this 10,000 be used just in Pleasant View? Where will it be used? Will it be used 10,000 per year? Will it be? And they said, well, they might put in $50,000 this year or they might save up for 3 years till we get $30,000 and do a 30,000 project. I don't know that we necessarily care, as long as we see something for our money, so that they're going to come again in 3 years and ask for an extension and to keep going. But we didn't want to enter into a long-term contract that would obligate the city and basically void out our current contract. So that's kind of where we're at on that. Steve, anything you'd like to add there?
Well, I'd just like to add, and thank you for that comment, Mayor. I just want to say that this is part of our infrastructure. And we made the comment, I think I talked to Ann a little bit today about, we spend $50,000 a year to camera and clean out our sewer system. And over 3 years, all the system is, $150,000. Our system is up and kept up to good shape. And so I think this $10,000 and have it be kind of put to bed for 3 years and just let them do it and not have to have this year after year after year struggle. And it just makes sense. And we are utilizing it. We are dumping water in, this year they're going to benefit from it because the water, we're out of water, but to get the trees and, and over the course of the last, from 72, we have not given them very much money. And so I just think it's a good compromise. It's something that they can agree on. And I say we just go forward.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I like the comments that Leonard that the mayor added with providing documentation and just a little bit of accountability, so that we have something to answer to. And I would like to know what do our guys still have to perform maintenance with this? If we're giving them the money, is the maintenance on them? Because in the 1977 agreement, it states that we have to perform maintenance on certain outlets. And so does that stay the same or?
Well, the 77 agreement, sorry to just chime in, but is a little bit vague. So it doesn't necessarily require us to do maintenance. Tyson and his crew have been very generous in doing maintenance. So I think that that's something that's absolutely up to the city.
Yeah.
And
it depends on the emergency,
Can I say something?
if it need, if we need to jump on it.
Yeah,
then we're willing
exactly.
to jump.
Because it is part of our stormwater. I mean, if we have stuff backed up, if the sediment or something is in that thing and, and we have a flooding situation, our guys are going to be on it and the canals company is going to be on it too, but we're the first line, and I know that several, 100-year storms that have come every couple of years, it's all hands on deck. And I think that's a good relationship that we have. And I don't want to rock that boat. And that's again another reason Tyson is a huge part of this. And I think he feels good about what we've talked about. And
Tyson was involved and we want to make sure that any work we do, same thing, we document it.
Yeah.
We have, we presented that and said, hey, well, you left this off. We did this, and this. And they're like, oh, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And yeah. Yep.
They acknowledge that we are doing work and that They,
Well,
they're letting us
absolutely.
document that
Yeah,
as well.
yeah.
Yeah, and I think from here on out, the intent, and we really did have a good discussion with the canal company, but the intent is for both of us to do a little bit better job at documenting, because they, I mean, they admitted that there's been maintenance that has been deferred because they maybe didn't manage things quite as well as they should have. And so the intent right now is they really want to kind of get on this. And I think part of it is being a drier year. And they did explain that the projects fluctuate. They can't just do like a 5-year plan and say, okay, we're going to do X, X, and X, because they don't know how much water flow they're going to have. And so the types of projects they complete for maintenance dependent on basically the water flow.
They did a huge project right along the golf course because the muskrats have made Swiss cheese. And so they could shut the canal off and do that,
Yeah,
and
they did that
you know,
this
and have it
spring.
dry out and really make that, so there's not a flooding issue. And I know that's the canal company's thing, but anyway, Mayor, is anybody else have any comments? I'll make a motion.
I just want to make a quick comment. I think it's a fiscally responsible thing to do. I think it benefits both us and them. And I would, if you wouldn't mind, Steve, I'd like the motion to have something in there where we do have like some accountability to them and they have some accountability to us, where we can just, yeah, let's make that formal if we can.
Yeah.
And then we'll,
A written report every.
Well, I mean, as the mayor said, you know, they need to save some money too. You know, they're having user fees and they're having these things. So I don't know if I necessarily need to have an accountability of where this $10,000 was spent. I just think that we need to make, you know, have accountability that it's being done so that we don't have problems down the
Show us what
road.
the projects are. I
You know,
don't-
you know, and going,
Something to show us what the projects
and
are.
then maybe just a little report on what they've done, because you know, we can see that out by the, you know, the 89 sign. I mean, that's completely
Something to show the
taken done.
residents, a written report, something
Yeah.
like that. Would you be comfortable with that?
Well, I mean, I think you know, we need to be good steward, or they need to be good stewards of the money that the taxpayers are spending. And I again, I don't know if I really want to have an accountability of it, other than we just don't want the money just to be
Can
blown
that,
somewhere else.
can that
So-
accountability be written right into the funding agreement? I mean, it doesn't need to necessarily be a formal report, but just a mention of
I think that was.
some accountability.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean,
Well, I would think they would want to do something like I mentioned, because they're going to come back in 3
Yeah.
years and we're going to say, what have you done?
there's going to have to be something that they're
Yeah.
going to have to show
So we'll talk.
some for, but
Yeah,
I
we
don't know
can
if
absolutely request that. I don't think that that's an issue at
I
all.
mean, I think we can request, and I think they would
Tell 'em
gladly do
why.
that
We'll
in
tell 'em
addition
why.
to,
Yeah.
to having, you know, this really is us really completing our requirement to have our infrastructure and us have access to that canal for the next 3 years, unencumbered really. And we are going to need some stuff down the road with the skyline. We're going to have to utilize that. So having a good positive relationship with the canal company is much better than having this fight that we've had for kind of year on year on year. So I'm going to make the motion that we approve the $10,000 funding for the 3-year period with the North Ogden Canal Company. And I would like to have them, you know, be good stewards of that money. And I guess I just don't know how to, I don't want to put a condition on that necessarily.
I
And,
think they
but,
would though.
but they will,
I
you know,
think
and we can have Mike come and do a presentation or something at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, we
or
could
at
ask
the end
him
of
to
the
do
year.
a
think they
report
would
each year.
do that.
Maybe
So-
that's, yeah.
and I think
So-
you're right. I think they'll want to do something. They'll want to come to us. and say,
They
"This is
want to
what
be
we've
good
done."
partners with the city, which
think they will
I
too,
think,
'cause
I
they'll
think
want
this
this
is,
renewed,
yeah.
and so-
So anyway, I'll do that with hopefully maybe a little report on the canal's condition and,
Yeah, I think we can request that annual report. So I can.
but I don't want to put a stipulation on where the money's spent or an accountability necessarily
But
of the
an annual
money.
report, I
No.
think is.
Okay.
is
Just
a
what they're
good-
doing and kind of, yeah, just generally.
I
How's the canal
a
doing?
condition, and I think Tyson's
Some of the mechanisms
been
they-
very, a good part of that already. And I think he knows exactly what's going on. He knows where our water's being out or going out into the city or out into the canal from the city. So
I like what the mayor just said, kind of the condition of how the canal is going, some of the projects they've worked on,
Yeah.
because that's worked in the accountability rather than you
Okay.
better show us what you done, you know, spent the money on. I like that.
anyway, I'll stand by my motion.
Okay, do I have a second?
It's To adopt the
Second the motion.
addendum with
Yes.
some comment on an annual report.
Right. Yeah, and this is an addendum to our 1972
Mhm.
contract, which
And
was
it's
good
very
work.
specifically called out that
77.
it doesn't modify the existing
Correct.
agreement. It's
Yeah,
just
this
that
is- this is
addendum
just an
to
addendum.
identify it. It's
It's an addition.
Right.
Yeah.
3 years.
exactly
Not
a
an
specific
offer.
3-year funding agreement. Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
Okay. We had a motion by Gibson, second by Bailey. Any further discussion? It's not a resolution, is it? Nope.
No.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, closed meeting. We do have a closed meeting. Boy, do we have a closed meeting. It's a good thing we took a break. Okay.
I just wouldn't have it any other way.
First closed meeting is to talk about pending litigation, and so
Mayor, does Tyson need to be here?
Do we want to give
Um,
any sort of incentive for all
up
this
to you.
go?
If you
you
don't
know,
mind
we'll
staying.
probably dispense with staff reports tonight, once
Yeah.
we're done. So, thank you, everyone.
Yeah, no, thank you. I'm gonna, you're
Um,
welcome to go.
okay.
I'm sorry,
I
Tyson.
like it. I thought it was pretty good.
Chief, if you want to head, you're welcome to.
Don't leave me.
I'm gonna have to get some.
I can take